Chapter 940. Outside the island of darkness, Tianma sat cross-legged on the surface of the sea. Whoosh! The space cracked open, and two figures rushed over. One was a sharp sword aura, and the other was a dazzling golden light. Tianma's pupils trembled, and he said in a low voice, "It's you too, Tianma? You old ghost, you're actually injured." Lien Wanjin and the sword saint of the Qin clan were shocked. This old man was stronger than them, and now he was seriously injured? That's what the Dark Horse Gang has done. I've already called the other saints of my secret pavilion. That Lin Chen is the target of my secret pavilion. You'd better not meddle in other people's business. Although Tianma was injured, he didn't retreat. Lien Wanjin's expression was particularly interesting. How could the Black Horse Club have a trump card that could injure Heavenly Demon? What was Lin Chen's background? Lien Wanjin, who was as cunning as a fox, instantly realized that something was wrong. "You're more cunning than anyone. You're seriously injured, but you're still here. It seems that I've made the right choice." Lien Wanjin laughed and rushed into the island of darkness. Tianma's expression changed. The sword saint of the Qin clan, Qin Zhentian, hesitated for a moment, and also turned into a sword light and escaped into the island of darkness. Damn it! Tianma gritted his teeth, but he didn't dare to act rashly due to his injuries. In the south of the island of darkness, the surroundings were gloomy. The south was filled with the smell of blood, and countless ferocious beasts had fallen. 5 silhouettes flashed across the sky, moving through the mountains like rainbows. They were the 5 sages who had entered the island to capture Lin Chen. "We've searched everywhere, but we can't find him. What's going on? Considering that he's seriously injured, it's impossible for him to escape from our pursuit. Was he swallowed by a ferocious beast?" "No, all the ferocious beasts we encountered were all disemboweled. None of them swallowed a human. If we continue forward, we'll reach the Taotia's territory on the island of darkness. This big guy is not easy to deal with. This is its home ground. If it's not easy to deal with, let's search it. I don't believe that the 5 of us can't deal with it." The 5 Saint Realm experts charged toward the territory of the Taotai holy beast. Inside the palace's secret chamber, Lin Chen's clone was grabbed by Taotai. His aura made Taotai intoxicated, and it burned with desire. The Dragon King's heaven-raising spear was a weapon only possessed by high-level dragons. The Long Kingwo had the pure aura of a dragon. Although it was a sacred healing item and a sacred body refining item, it had an even more important use. Those who consumed Long Kingwo for a long period of time had a certain probability of obtaining a powerful weapon like the Dragon King's heaven-raising spear. Dragons were lustful creatures, and powerful dragons had more than 3,000 harems. Lin Chen had taken a large amount of Long Kingwo, which had transformed his body into a powerful dragon. In addition, he had 2 great dragon bloodlines, so obtaining the Dragon King's heavens-raising spear was just a matter of time. It could be said that everyone in the Black Horse Club had this divine weapon. Moreover, Lin Chen's physique and aptitude were excellent. Taotai was a saint beast, and it loved to eat humans with great potential the most. Therefore, to the Taotai, the young man in front of her was a choice whether to eat him in bed or not. However, just as Lin Chen was about to fall into the young woman's hands, his eyes sharpened, and he activated the Stealing Omen talent. Consumed 2 mid-level talent points. Stolen Omen talent obtained. 50,000 high-level health points. Boom. Lin Chen's pure strength increased by 1.2 million dragon power points. At the critical moment when he fell into the young woman's hands, the clone smiled. Super-dimensional teleportation. Consumed 1 mid-level talent point. Host activated super-dimensional teleportation and teleported to space 6. Whoosh. The clone disappeared. The Taotai was stunned. Teleportation? How is that possible? How can someone use teleportation in the space of Dark Island? Just as the Taotai was about to explode in anger, she realized that the young man's aura was still in the palace. She couldn't help but grin and sweep her scarlet tongue. Little baby, no matter where you come from, you can't escape from my hands. Is this the Taotia's palace? A palace made of grade 7 ores. How extravagant! Humph, there's a high chance that Lin Chun has fallen into her hands. Let's just force her out. The 5 saints arrived outside the palace and looked around. Suddenly, the blue-clothed saint trembled, and he was overjoyed. I feel it. I've detected that young man's aura. As soon as he said that, the young man's laughter echoed in the palace. Come and catch me. If you catch me, I'll let you. Hee, smack, 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 the 5 saints' faces darkened. Damn it, how dare this young man be so carefree? Bang! The blue-robed saint blasted open the door of the palace with his palm and rushed in with the 4 saints without saying a word. In the palace hall, a naked young woman was pressing the young man to the ground. She didn't even have time to eat him. Oh, madam, it seems like someone is going to disturb our fun. Lin Chun smiled coquettishly. The 5 saints' mouths twitched. No wonder this young man barged into Dark Island so fearlessly. He had hooked up with the holy beast Taotai of Dark Island? The young woman was stunned. She shook out a few snow waves. She was charming and hot, but her expression was solemn. Lin Chun, die. One holy beast Taotai can't protect you. Rumble. The 5 saints' aura surged. Their holy light was like rainbows, and the entire palace shook. The 5 saints instantly aimed at Lin Chen's clone and the young woman. The underground altar was shaking non-stop. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. They've started fighting, but I didn't have time to lure the Taotai out. If she immediately gives in to the 5 saints and hands over my clone, she might return here at any time. I can't care so much. Save the people first. At Lin Chen's command, Little Shadow rushed out of the peach blossom plant pouch, turned into a black cloud, and shrouded Lin Chen. It passed through the space barrier with a whoosh. The moment he deactivated the innate shadow spell, his figure appeared. The 2 women on the altar froze. Lin Chen? Lin, young master Lin Chen? As the 2 women exclaimed, Lin Chen removed the 1,000 illusion mask and released all of his clones. The clones held the azure moon and the sky-raising sacred sword. They activated the ultimate moment. Sword Fury Sky. Mirror Moon Imperial God. Whoosh. The orange sword slashed furiously. The mirror moon sword whistled and cut open a gap in the red altar's flames. Chi. The other 2 clones used the dark step and rushed into the altar through the gap. At that moment, the clones were burned by the altar's special flames. Before they were burned to ashes, the 2 doppelgangers launched a furious kick into the green light barrier, sending the 2 women flying out from the center of the altar like kicking a rubber ball. Whoosh! The clones were burned to ashes in half a breath's time. The 2 women were shocked. The altar's flames were very special. They could even burn the holy power of a saint. Lin Chen's clone couldn't even last a breath's time. Fortunately, they had rescued the 2 women. Chapter 942. The little fairy wanted all the techniques in the treasury. Rank 8 sacred ores, 1 for each person. In terms of weapons, Lin Chun only took the saber Mooncutter and the sword Destiny, 2 peak rank 7 weapons. Due to the high value of the odd crystal fragments, Lin Chun compensated the little fairy with 40 bottles of clear jade dew before she let him go. Fortunately, the clear jade tree produced enough clear jade dew, otherwise there would be not a single drop. Just as the 2 were about to leave, Lin Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. At the end of the cave, there was a strong blood-red attribute light. There are high attribute values over there. Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately rushed over. The little fairy looked forward to it and followed Lin Chen closely. In the underground world below the palace, Taotai Holy Beast and the 3 saints were at loggerheads. Taotai grinned sinisterly and said hoarsely, I don't know this kid, are you looking for death? Are you deliberately finding trouble with me? The clone was frightened. Sister, How can you not recognize us after pulling up your pants? That night, you clearly said that you liked my specialty and even said that you would help me deal with 10 saints. The 3 saints' faces became gloomier. But seeing the anger in Taoya's eyes, the 3 saints were puzzled. What was actually going on? This Taotai really didn't seem to know Lin Chen? Could it be that Lin Chen was using them to kill each other? But if Lin Chen didn't know Taotai Holy Beast, how could he, who was seriously injured, dare to step into the territory of a rank 8 sacred beast? If they let Taotai go, what if she and Lin Chen were in cahoots? Taotai was more familiar with Dark Island than them, and if she escaped with Lin Chen, even if the 5 saints worked together, it would be extremely difficult to find her. Mystery. It was all a mystery. As if they had fallen into an endless swamp, the 3 saints were hesitant and had doubts about whether they should advance or retreat. This was the effect that Lin Chen wanted. His phantom clone had always been the trump card of his trump cards, and this time, without Ing Tianma's blood seal, he could play with the 4 saints. I don't know you, Dai. Taotai smashed the clone with her palm. See, I have nothing to do with this kid, get lost? Seeing that there were 5 saints on the other side, Taotai suppressed her violent temperament. But the 3 saints didn't move. Seems like you still don't intend to admit it. Forget it, ferocious beasts will always be beasts, even if they have cultivated to a level close to ours. Let's beat them until they tell us. The 3 saints' choice was to kill the wrong person. Cicada Saint and Fog Saint were still outside. They did not believe that a heavily injured Lin Chen would be able to escape. Instead, they had to get rid of Taotai. Bang! Fierce explosions echoed from outside the palace. Taotai squinted his brutal eyes. That direction was his cave. So you want to touch my treasure? Humans, you're courting death. Roar. Taotai Holy Beast Taotai roared angrily, releasing gray light that could swallow the wind and clouds. A primordial species was born. Its body was like black iron, its claws like a tiger, its tail like a cow, and its body like a horse. Its limbs were covered in scales, and its whole body was covered in gray light. It looked extremely ferocious, and its mouth was covered with thousands of sword-like teeth. Its body was like a mountain, standing in front of the 3 saints, and its murderous aura was like a dragon's. If it was in the space of the 9 states or other mortal worlds, this primordial holy beast would be more than 200,000 feet in size, and its claws could shatter the earth. It was a genuine primordial species. Clang! The moment Taotai Holy Beast Taoya's body appeared, the blue-clothed saint raised his palms, and his saint power surged out as if it had collided with hard metal. He couldn't help but frown. What a hard body! I'll swallow you all! Taotai Holy Beast Taotai shot out dozens of devouring light beams from its mouth. The 3 saints used many battle techniques, and the 2 sides started to fight. While the battle between the Sage Realm experts was in full swing, Lin Chen discovered a shocking secret in the cave. The skeleton of 1,000 feet tall was engraved with mysterious bone patterns, and it was surrounded by high-level vitality attribute light balls. This is the skeleton of a Taotai that was about to break through to rank 8, but it was eaten clean before it died. Not even the beast core was left behind. The little demoness saw through the secret with a single glance and clicked her tongue in wonder. No wonder that Taotai woman could become so powerful. A woman's heart is the most poisonous. This one might be her husband or he might be her relative. But the female swallowed the male, and only then did the female step into the realm of an 8th-level sacred beast. This skeleton couldn't be stored in a storage ring, so the young Taotai lady piled it together with many other treasures. Received 3,580 high-level vitality, 2,999 high-level vitality, 5,000 high-level vitality. Lin Chen put away all the high-level vitality attribute light balls, and gained a total of 90,000 high-level vitality. The influx of vitality energy forced Lin Chen to use the Dragon Emperor to share the burden. The Dragon Emperor that swallowed the Dragon Prince absorbed another batch of high-level vitality energy, and its pure strength rose to 69 million. The Dragon Emperor's true strength was even stronger than the golden armored dragon guards that the Dragon Prince brought along. Decomposed 11 odd crystal fragments, consumed 44 intermediate heaven path points, elemental attribute gained. 7 high-level fire energy, 8 high-level earth energy, 6 high-level wind energy, obtained special attribute gained. 25 million thousand suns fire, consumed all special attribute points, 105 intermediate heaven path points, starting to create a high-level blue rank sure kill skill. Lin Chen's thoughts were extremely fast, and the moment he obtained the attribute points, he decomposed and created a sure kill skill. All in one go. Bang! The space barrier outside was severely attacked, and the little fairy smiled at Lin Chen. A saint found this place and is attacking the space barrier. Lin Chen grabbed the little fairy and smiled. Let's go. Host activated super-dimensional teleportation, carrying target +1, consumption doubled, consumed 4 intermediate talent points. The two of them flashed and disappeared. Rumble! The space barrier shattered, and Cicada Saint stepped into it, his expression changing slightly. Where are they? This old man clearly felt that there were 2 other people here. Swish! The 2 of them returned to the courtyard of the palace, and the little fairy was once again amazed by Lin Chen's mystical means. He was actually able to use space transfer on Dark Island. Hey, if I return this to you now, can you kill all of them? The little fairy took out the war god wristband and shook it. Lin Chen smiled. I should be able to. The little fairy smiled charmingly. I don't believe you. I'll return it to you after you're done with me. Lin Chen? An angry voice was heard, and the middle-aged man stepped on a mist dragon and arrived. When he saw Lin Chen, he immediately pointed his finger, and the mist pierced through Lin Chen. Bang! Mist Saint's finger flattened the entire courtyard, creating a terrifying pit that was hundreds of feet wide. Lin Chen and the little fairy disappeared into thin air. Where did they go? Oh no, was that the original body? Mist Saint's expression changed. He crushed the sage seal in his palm and immediately informed the other 4 sages. Lin Chen used the innate shadow art and had already escaped with the little fairy. This was the reason why Lin Chen had entered Dark Island. On Dark Island, saints could not seal the space and restrict his movements. The innate shadow art was like a fish in water here. Chapter 943. Phantom Doppelgangers Spread Out. Lin Chen activated the level 6 Phantom Rune and ordered all his doppelgangers to use the innate shadow art. After eliminating their auras, they rushed to the 4 corners of the palace. This could greatly disrupt the Sage Stage's vision and avoid a direct confrontation with the Sage Stage. Lin Chen could not replicate the results of the God of War Gauntlet. To be able to severely injure Heavenly Demon and kill the 3 sages in one move, it was largely due to the 3 ultimate skills and the strongest level 6 delaying rune that he had used up all his rune energy. The power of the 2 trump cards had delayed the 4 sages, giving them no chance to retreat. Otherwise, Lin Chen could not control the pain and struggle while wearing the God of War Gauntlet, and the Sage Stage would be enough to kill him. Although Lin Chen had ultimate skills, he only had 100 points of high-grade rune energy. If he did not have the means to delay the sages, even with the God of War Gauntlet, it would be difficult to hit the Sage Stage. Oh right, system. Can my blank attributes be exchanged for high-grade rune energy? Suddenly, Lin Chen asked the system. He had more than 1,000,000 blank attribute. If he could convert them all into high-grade rune energy, he would not have to be afraid of the 5 sages. Blank attributes and high-grade rune energy are of different levels. If you forcefully convert them, your blank attributes can be converted into 11 points of high-grade rune energy. Would you like to convert them? Lin Chen said. Goodbye. While the Island of Darkness was in chaos, the Mystic Domain and Xuanyu were spreading shocking news one after another, shocking the geniuses of the 2 domains. The Black Horse Club appeared out of nowhere, defeated the Extreme Heaven Pavilion, and killed the Dragon Prince? Won the team martial arts competition? All the geniuses in the Black Horse Club are suspected to be Stage 8 alchemists? They have more than one orange-grade ultimate skill and have the potential to become a 5th-grade sect? Their deputy director is only around 80,000 on the genius ranking. He dared to challenge the Dark Pavilion's patriarch and was surrounded by 16 sages? Countless pieces of news spread out, from the Mystic Domain to the Xian Domain, and even to the other 36 domains. The name of the Black Horse Club shook the genius rankings. In a certain area of the sacred boundary, in the vast expanse of clouds, a beautiful and gorgeous crimson-colored palace stood in the heavens and the earth like an immortal miracle, and it burned with brilliant divine flames. A beautiful woman in a red robe was sitting in the backyard of the god palace. She held the gold roll in her hand and quietly listened to her subordinates report about the Black Horse Club. Behind the beautiful woman, there were a few handsome and beautiful geniuses on the genius roll kneeling on one knee. They were all extraordinary geniuses ranked in the top 30,000 of the genius roll. Fight the saints and win the assembly. He destroyed many geniuses on the genius ranking, single-handedly established the Black Horse Club, and all the geniuses are suspected to be quasi-tier 8 alchemists. He killed the dragon race's crown prince. Interesting. The beautiful woman flicked her sleeves and sent her subordinates away. A small head popped out from behind the screen in the courtyard and looked around curiously. The beautiful and exquisite body stretched, showing off her exquisite curve. Her beautiful lips parted and she smiled like a flower. Little girl, instead of cultivating, you came out to play. The little girl hiding behind the screen stuck out her tongue and skipped to the side of the beautiful woman in the red robe. She asked curiously, "Big sister, did my master come to the sacred boundary? I heard his name just now." The red-robed beauty scratched the little girl's nose with her jade-like finger and said with a smile, "Master, master. How many times have you been calling him master since we came here? Our divine flame palace has so many Saint Realm experts, and all of them are better than that stinking brat. Why do you keep talking about him? Even I am envious." The little girl shook her head and shook her tied ponytails. She muttered, "I don't want them to be my master. The other elders all teach long stories, and they don't teach as happily as master. Humph, those stinky little brothers and sisters bullied me in the name of testing my combat skills. After I beat them up, they all became obedient." The little girl's pink and jade-like face showed a trace of truth. She fiercely clenched her small fist. "Master taught me that if anyone dares to bully me, I will beat them up. That's right." The beautiful woman in the red robe didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This little girl was really bewitched by that brat. You awakened the martial god's bloodline and suddenly joined the divine flame palace, so you occupied a lot of cultivation resources. The brothers and sisters must be dissatisfied. However, the rule of our divine flame palace has always been to only cultivate the strong. You used your strength to conquer them. The beautiful woman in the red robe rubbed the little girl's hair lovingly. The geniuses who were kneeling on one knee beside her were shocked when they heard this. His mind exploded with a bang. Martial god's bloodline? The bloodline of the strongest god's bloodline in the legends? The bloodline of the martial god that was said to be comparable to the Son of God? What kind of godly background did this little girl have? The little girl's big eyes flickered and her voice was like a mosquito. "That big sister, can I go out and look for master, you?" The beautiful woman pinched the little girl's white and tender ears. She shook her head and laughed. "Forget it. I'll give you 3 months to go out. However, you must always carry the divine flame star stone I gave you. If necessary, crush it. I'll rush to your side." "Yay. I knew big sister was the best. I can go and look for master now." The little girl kissed the side of the beautiful woman's face, then happily trotted away. "Oh right. Remember, if you meet any geniuses who are below the 40,000th rank on the genius ranking, you are not allowed to fight. If you kill them, no one will help you. The geniuses who were kneeling on the ground twitched their mouths. Get up. Since the information you brought is acceptable, you can go to the divine palace to get your reward. The beautiful woman in the red robe flicked her sleeve. The geniuses who were kneeling on the ground were overjoyed. After sending everyone away, the beautiful woman in the red robe gazed into the distance. In the distance, there was an eternal flame like the sun shining on the divine flame palace. The beautiful woman in the red robe muttered to herself, "Lin Chen, little fellow, can you catch up? Just based on your current performance, it's far from enough. Your opponents are not the ants on the genius ranking. A few first-grade saint-grade alchemists can't make up for it on the island filled with dark fog. There was a glorious and immortal divine palace. The divine palace's appearance was like a phoenix flying with its wings spread out. It had a garden of peach blossoms and many pavilions. The divine palace shone brightly as if it was the residence of a saint." "Is this the Phoenix Palace?" Lin Chen stared at the huge object in front of him and clicked his tongue in wonder. After he and the little fairy passed through Tao Tai's palace, they crossed the space barrier and rushed here at full speed. The 5 saints were still circling around the palace. Especially when Lin Chen's 5 doppelgangers appeared one by one and escaped, the 5 saints were having a great time catching them. Little did they know that Lin Chen's real body had already arrived on the other side of the dark island. "I've sensed the location of the treasury. Let's go." The little fairy's charming face was filled with excitement. With a wave of her hand, the 2 thief kings sneaked into the Phoenix Palace. Dark fog filled the air and enveloped the entire sky. A ray of sword light flew straight and appeared in the sky. The young man stepped on his sword and came over. His face was cold and arrogant and his face was pale. The most handsome thing about the young man in white was his golden eyes. They were like eternal starlight and his pupils were like 9 stars hanging upside down. They contained the sword steel, sword realm and sword world. At this moment, he covered the bloodstains on his chest and stepped on his sword into the dark fog. His pair of golden eyes saw through everything as he muttered to himself, "The experts of the demon race are indeed quite capable. This seems to be the Dark Island and it is said that a sacred phoenix lives here. Extract its blood marrow and phoenix feathers to heal my injuries." The young man entered the dark fog. At the end of the dark fog was an island shrouded in darkness. This young man in white was Lin Xingchen, who had destroyed the Star Splendor Palace with one sword. At this moment, he was heading straight for the Dark Island. Chapter 944. Inside Phoenix Palace, a handsome man wearing a phoenix sun and moon robe raised his cup and laughed heartily. "Ha ha ha, come, beauties. Let's drink until we're drunk. No one can leave first today. Saint for 10,000 years. His Majesty is mighty." A group of graceful and agile women danced. Their clothes were like gauze and the snow-white waves were clearly visible. It caused the handsome man to embrace a few beauties and fondle them wantonly. "This life is really happy. There's a palace, a group of beauties, and 100 million. It's simple and unadorned. I like it." Someone Lin, who was quietly passing by, clicked his tongue in wonder. He was currently in the state of innate shadow art eliminating aura. The man in the phoenix robe in the palace did not notice him and the little demoness. That handsome man was most likely the owner of this Phoenix Palace, the Grand Flame Sacred Phoenix. "You can also run in and join them now. I don't mind." The little demoness wore his God of War bracers and chuckled. It was like the mist in the spring mountains in March. There was a dangerous charm amidst the haziness. "Of course, I'm just saying. How can these women be compared to my little demoness big sister? Shameless. Who's yours? You're dreaming. You're dreaming." "What? I was just thinking about you and you actually said I was daydreaming. How can you scold yourself like that?" Big sister Demoness, a girl must cherish herself. Looks like not only are you daydreaming, you're also itching for a beating. The two of them bickered along the way. In front of an inconspicuous loft in Phoenix Palace, Lin Chen saw an attribute light ball's aurora. What a dazzling light! It seems to be the attribute light of a cultivation technique. Lin Chen licked his lips. Just as he was about to enter with anticipation, the little Demoness stopped him. There's a hidden spatial restriction here. Once we trigger it, that big fellow will discover us. The little Demoness pointed at a spatial talisman outside the loft. It faintly emitted spatial energy, forming dense spatial threads that enveloped the entire loft. As long as one touched a spatial thread, it would attract the sacred phoenix's attention. Lin Chen released Little Shadow and pointed at the loft. Little guy, can you handle it? The fairy also looked at Little Shadow. She nodded, then shook her head. Purple lightning gathered above Little Dark Shadow's head. You can enter alone. You can't bring anyone with you. The two of them looked at each other. Lin Chen said to Little Shadow, then I'll leave it to you. Go in and move the things out one by one. Remember, pick the most valuable things first. If you're done, I'll reward you handsomely. Little Dark Shadow's eyes lit up. He dashed into the void and wandered around the space crystal walls, passing through the thin space threads. The two of them stood outside the pavilion, ready for battle. Not long after, Little Shadow brought out an 8th grade Saint Or. The little Demoness said anxiously, Little guy, it's not this. First, find the phoenix feather in the box. It's this. She took out the scroll and showed it to Little Shadow. Little Shadow looked at Lin Chen. After Lin Chen nodded seriously, Little Shadow dashed in again. Little Shadow rummaged through the secret room, and among the piles of silver Saint Origin coins and treasures, he finally found 2 green boxes. Inside the boxes was a purplish-red feather. It was very beautiful. Little Shadow's black cloud-like body formed 2 claws and grabbed it excitedly. Just as he was about to move it, clang! One of the spatial threads broke. Little Dark Shadow was shocked. Only then did he realize that there were 2-dimensional threads connected to the bottom of the green box. If he moved the green box too much, the dimensional threads would break. But he didn't notice it. He miscalculated. Inside the Phoenix Palace, the great flame sacred phoenix, who had transformed into its human form, had a fierce look in its eyes. Its entire body was burning with purplish-red flames. It was no longer drunk and was filled with murderous intent. How dare a thief sneak into my palace? How dare you touch my phoenix feather? You're courting death. Outside the pavilion, while Lin Chen and the little Demoness were still guarding, the little Demoness' expression changed. Oh no, that big guy has been alerted! Rumble! The purplish-red flames turned into a sea of fire and rushed into the clouds. A man with purplish-red wings flew over quickly and said coldly, Who are you? Come out. The great flame sacred phoenix raised its hand and tore. Its claws were like hooks with purplish-red flames rolling. It was sharp and hot. It swept out a claw that was hundreds of feet long and attacked outside the pavilion. Let that little guy hide first. I'll delay this guy. You help me get the thing. The little Demoness pushed Lin Chen away and revealed herself. Her slender hands were covered with crimson lotus flames. Her fingertips flicked and tore apart the pavilion's spatial restriction. At the same time, a red lotus flew into the sky and collided with the great flame sacred phoenix's claw. Bang! Rumble! A flaming tornado swept across the sky, and the sacred flames burned high in the sky. The great flame sacred phoenix was shocked and then laughed wildly. Ha ha! What a delicious and peerless beauty! Since you're here, don't leave. Stay here with me. Lin Chen was dumbfounded. Saint Realm? This little Demoness is also a Saint Realm cultivator? Damn, how can I accept this? It seems that everyone on the island who can fight is a Saint Realm cultivator. Lin Chen's mouth twitched. The little Demoness secretly sent a voice transmission. Go quickly. I may not be able to stop it completely. The spatial restriction had been torn apart by the little demoness, and Lin Chen dashed straight into the treasury. Rumble! The sky outside was dark. The little demoness and the sacred phoenix were fighting. The Hong Yen's sacred phoenix decisively revealed its true form. It transformed into a huge purple phoenix with 3 feathers on its tail. Its entire body was filled with domineering saintly aura. The moment it appeared, it brought out its true strength, as if it was determined to capture the little demon. Every step she took was like a lotus flower. Her body was slender and graceful, and when she moved, she could dodge the sacred phoenix's attacks every time. Lin Chen barged into the pavilion. At this time, Little Shadow was at a loss and panic. When it saw Lin Chen enter, it quickly returned to Lin Chen's side. Lin Chen grabbed the 2 green boxes and rudely tore apart the spatial thread. The sacred phoenix outside turned pale with fright. "There's still a thief?" Rumble! The finger seal suppressed the sky. With a boom, it exploded on the sacred phoenix's back and knocked it down. "Your opponent is me. If you don't want to die, focus on fighting me." The little demoness giggled and stood in front of the sacred phoenix. At this time, the little demoness and the sacred phoenix did not notice that a sword aura was moving across thousands of miles. It was moving at an incredible speed. In the pavilion, Lin Chen took the 2 immortal phoenix feathers and looked around the pavilion. It was filled with silver Saint Origin coins, 10 pieces of 8th-grade ores, and many treasures. Lin Chen opened the peach blossom plant pouch and took it all. If it was an ordinary expert, they would not have the space to store so many treasures. However, Lin Chen's peach blossom plant pouch had a huge space. As for his system space, only the items produced by the system could be placed in the system space. For example, the God of War bracers. Otherwise, other items could not enter the system space. Lin Chen collected many treasures along the way. When he reached the top floor, there was a bright orange attribute light ball. This was a cultivation technique attribute light ball. Lin Chen's heart was filled with excitement as he grabbed the orange attribute light ball. Host has received a cultivation technique attribute light ball. After absorption, you will receive a half-orange movement technique, Dragon Flash. Chapter 945. Half-orange grade movement technique? Lin Chen was shocked. His strongest movement technique now was the +13 infinite dark step. With this movement technique complemented with his mental cultivation method and ultimate moment talent, he could unleash the speed of a purple grade movement technique. But a half-orange grade movement technique was completely different. A purple grade movement technique and a half-orange grade movement technique were 2 different concepts. Moreover, in Lin Chen's hands, if the half-orange grade movement technique was strengthened with his mental cultivation method and ultimate moment talent, it would be infinitely close to an orange grade movement technique. The only regret was that the charging rune could only be used on offensive technique. Otherwise, Lin Chen would definitely be able to unleash the power of an orange grade movement technique. I have one more life-saving method now. I have to find some time to learn this movement technique. Lin Chen suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and hurriedly left the pavilion. With a flash of movement technique, he rushed out of the pavilion. The next moment, Lin Chen saw the scene outside. Lin Chen was in disbelief as his pupils trembled in fear. The humongous sacred phoenix fell to the ground and collapsed. The blood of the sacred phoenix formed a long river. Its body and blood scattered into purplish-red attribute light balls. That was the brilliance that belonged to the bloodline attribute light balls. Its phoenix flames gradually extinguished. The sacred phoenix race, which was known for its strong vitality, actually died on the spot. Before it died, its eyes were filled with disbelief as it muttered to itself, "Such a domineering sword. Was it the little demoness who killed it? No, it can't be. Who was it?" When Lin Chen saw the remnant sword aura on the sacred phoenix's head, he was shocked. On top of the sacred phoenix's body stood a young man in white. The white-clothed young man pulled with one hand and fiercely pulled out the blood essence of the Hong Yen's sacred phoenix, pulling out 100-meter-long purple-red energy essence condensed from the blood essence. The little demoness had fallen into a cliff. She, who had a beautiful appearance and temperament, was now deathly pale. Her robes were in disarray, as if they had been cut open by many sword slashes. Her jade-like white skin was revealed, covered in bloodstains. Lin Chen, hurry up and take the immortal phoenix feather and leave. Lin Xingchen seemed to have sensed something, and his gaze turned towards Lin Chen's location as he said indifferently, I didn't think that there would be another ant. Lin Chen was shocked. This person could actually see through his innate shadow incantation? He removed the dark calamity battle chi from his body and revealed his true form. At this moment, the two fated gazes of 1,000 cycles of reincarnation locked onto each other. Lin Xingchen stared at the silver-robed youth in the distance, an extremely strange feeling surging in his heart. A few strands of sword chi appeared in his golden pupils, and he was puzzled. To the current him, this young man was extremely weak. But for some reason, he couldn't afford to underestimate them. He didn't have the aura of a weak ant on his body. Instead, there was a kind of aura that faintly threatened him. The young man in white had a strange expression on his face. I'm afraid of this brat? Why would I be afraid of an ant who hasn't even reached the sage realm? What a joke! Lin Xingchen felt that it was absurd, and he laughed coldly. He was a peerless genius of his generation, and he looked down on countless geniuses of the sacred boundary. He didn't even put the entire sacred boundary in his eyes. He was a true natural-born sovereign, and he shouldered the glory of the god realm's aristocratic families. Someone like him would be afraid of a war emperor? What a joke! Lin Chen's shock wasn't small either. He pulled open his shirt, revealing the 9 star-like birthmarks on his chest. Were they actually flickering with a faint light? These were Lin Chen's birthmarks. When Manager Su of the Divine Martial Sect picked him up, it was on a moonlit night. In the night, Lin Chen was only wrapped in a tattered robe with the word Lin on it. At that time, Lin Chen was an infant, and the 9 birthmarks on his chest flickered with a faint starlight. From then on, Manager Su named him Lin Chen. The word Chen originated from the reaction of the birthmark to the stars. The word Lin originated from the tattered robe on Lin Chen's body. In Lin Chen's memory, these 9 birthmarks would only emit a faint light when facing a full moon or a starry night. They were useless. Lin Chen's bloodline was no different from a mortal's. Today, it actually reacted to the white-clothed youth in front of him? Ant, you walked out of the pavilion. I believe you're here for the immortal phoenix feather. Hand over the immortal phoenix feather, and I'll spare your life. You can scram immediately. Lin Xingchen thought highly of himself. He actually asked Lin Chen to hand over the immortal phoenix feather, and he would spare his life. This was his arrogance. His arrogance to the extreme. He had never put any of the geniuses of the sacred boundary in his eyes. If he killed a war emperor here, it would prove that he didn't have absolute confidence in his own potential and future. It would create a huge obstacle for his state of mind. Would he, Lin Xingchen, be afraid of a war emperor? What a joke! Lin Chen used the silent step and rushed to the cliff. He stood in front of the little demoness and hugged her. The beauty's beautiful face blushed slightly. Lin Chen held the little demoness' slender waist with one hand and smiled faintly. If I hand over the immortal phoenix feather, I don't know if I can take her away. Lin Xingchen sneered. She offended me and will definitely die. Do you think you have the right to negotiate with me? You're very arrogant. Lin Chen smiled and searched the little vixen's body from head to toe. Hey! What are you doing? Where are you touching? The little demoness scolded coldly. You dare to take advantage of me? Tisk, my Yuechi and sister Ruoyan are much prettier than you. Don't flatter yourself. I'm taking back my big treasure. Lin Chen searched and found the battle god's wrist guard. He praised in his heart. It feels so good. You're really a demoness. Only Sister Yuechi's figure can compare to you. Even though he was heavily injured, Lin Xingqian still crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking down at Lin Chen with arrogance in his eyes. "Aunt, don't tell me you want to resist me? Don't fight with him. You're not his match," the little demoness said anxiously. Lin Chen pulled her to the side. Women shouldn't interfere in men's business. Lin Chen's domineering attitude stunned the little demoness. He could have left if he handed over the immortal phoenix feather. Why did he have to stay here and risk his life? Lin Chen held the battle god's wrist guard and smiled evilly. "You look very arrogant. You knew I didn't intend to hand over the immortal phoenix feather, but you didn't stop me." Although the little demoness had used him to steal the immortal phoenix feather, it was a fact that she had saved him. After using the battle god's wrist guard, Lin Chen was like Little Shadow. They were both at the end of their rope. If not for the little demoness, Lin Chen would have become food for the ferocious beasts while he was unconscious. In his bottom line, there was no abandoning his savior. "Because you and I are different. You're just an ant on the ground. No one cares about what an ant wants to do. In my eyes, you're all a piece of cake." Lin Xingqian's eyes were so cold that it made one shudder. Lin Chen laughed loudly. "Thank you so much. In my eyes, you're the same. It's the same no matter who I face. I don't care about life and death. If you're not convinced, just fight." Lin Chen stuffed a large amount of long qingguo into his mouth. His domineering smile was overflowing with arrogance. The next moment, Lin Chen put on the battle god's wrist guard. Boom! Divine light shone and golden light floated. Lin Chen's eyes shone with a divine light that illuminated the world. An invincible aura that could dominate thousands of worlds erupted from the battle god's wrist guard. Lin Chen's body was bathed in divine golden light, and he looked like a battle god who had descended to the mortal world. At this moment, Lin Xingqian's expression suddenly became very interesting. An unexpected duel. Lin Chen versus Lin Xingqian. Chapter 946. Boom, boom, boom. 10,000 rays of golden light surged out from Lin Chen's body. His hair danced in the wind, and his silver robe fluttered loudly. He released a dazzling divine light that illuminated the world. His entire body was covered in divine light illusions. He was like an armored god of war, his battle prowess dominating the heavens. Almost instinctively, Lin Xingqian gripped the sword at his waist tightly. Lin Chen's aura had increased by more than 100,000 times in an instant. He had leaped to a whole new level. "What is this?" Lin Xingqian stared fixedly at the war god's wrist guard on Lin Chen's arm, his expression solemn. "So that's how it is. Is this the reason why he threatened me? I didn't feel anything strange about this item just now." Splat. Lin Chen's entire body turned into paste as blood flowed all over his body. He still couldn't control the god of war bracer. Lin Chen was already prepared. He activated the ultimate moment, 7 transformations. He used the ultimate convergence talent repeatedly. With his previous experience, Lin Chen was no longer obsessed with punching. His entire body was covered in blood. He clenched his fists tightly and made a snap motion. A sense of danger enveloped Lin Chen. He was about to move, but Lin Chen seemed to have predicted his reaction. He suddenly shouted coldly, "Damn you, you coward! Weren't you acting cool just now? Why are you running now? Are you a coward? If you have the guts, take my snap." Lin Xingqian's cold and arrogant face was instantly filled with anger. Even though it was such a low-level provocation, it had still stimulated his extremely conceited heart. "A mere ant dares to talk back to me? Die!" Clang! The divine sword was unsheathed. The sound of the sword reverberated through the heavens and shook the entire island of darkness. "What sword is that?" The little fairy's eyes trembled. The sword in Lin Xingqian's hand was extremely mysterious. From the hilt of the sword, there were dozens of veins that were connected to Lin Xingqian's arm. It was extremely strange. It was as if the sword was a part of him. It was more like a living thing. That's right, that's how it should be. Cowards can't beat me. Lin Chen grinned, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Countless rays of golden light condensed at the tip of his finger, and he suddenly flicked his finger. A beam of golden radiance shot out explosively, almost instantaneously like a flash of light. Bang! Rip! The peerless divine power that had shattered the falling crystal wall was condensed at a single point. Extreme strength and extreme speed condensed into a streak of golden radiance. Wherever the golden divine radiance passed, it tore apart the spatial crystal walls of the island of darkness, furiously crashing into Lin Xingchen. Lin Xingchen raised his sword and stood upright. His palm pressed against the hilt of the sword as he moved at lightning speed. Breaking dawn. Boom. The wind and clouds gathered to form a speck of starlight. The extreme sword radiance illuminated the dark fog of the entire dark island. The tip of the sword was the sharpest sword radiant. Clang. Bang. The moment when the sharpest point of the sword light collided with the golden radiance that contained hundreds of millions of dragon power points, the entire space in the sky shattered. History converged at this moment. Boom. 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 An indescribable spatial hurricane came crashing down, crushing the entire Phoenix Palace into smithereens. The mountains exploded as if they had exploded. The faint golden radiance and sword aura scattered in the air. It's this power. I wonder if the power he used to instantly kill the 3 saints that day is effective against this monster. Little Fairy's mind was extremely tense. This youth was a real monster. He killed the sacred phoenix with 1 strike and defeated her with 2 strikes. Among the monsters she had encountered, there was no monster with such heaven-defying power. What was even more terrifying was that this person seemed to be heavily injured. Finally, blood trickled from the corner of Lin Xingchen's mouth. With the addition of new injuries, he finally couldn't hold on any longer. Because of Lin Xingchen's injuries, more than 10 extremely high-quality attribute light balls rolled down from the sky. At this moment, Lin Chen wasn't much better than Lin Xingchen. His body continued to crumble as blood spurted out. He was on the verge of death. Lin Chen didn't hesitate at all. He gritted his teeth and gathered strength with great difficulty for the second flick of his finger. Not good. Lin Xingchen was shocked. Die. Lin Chen roared and gathered strength for another flick of his finger. The second ray of golden light shot into the sky. Rip. The golden light tore through the void. The stronger the power, the faster the speed. Lin Xingchen didn't have time to dodge at all. He raised his sword, which flowed with vast starlight and contained the sun and moon, and slashed apart half of the sword rainbow. Bang! The golden light, which was condensed from pure strength, smashed apart the remnant light in the sky. The entire Phoenix Palace's foundation was shaken until it cracked inch by inch. The earth-shaking wind rushed into the clouds and dispersed the endless dark fog that shrouded Dark Island, allowing the moonlight to shine down from the outside. A dazzling 5-colored supreme treasure chest appeared. It was another 5-colored supreme treasure chest. Whoosh! The starlight shuttled, carrying the sacred phoenix's blood marrow and escaping through the void. Brat, I'll remember you. How dare you injure me, Lin Xingchen? I'll make you pay for this blood debt in the future. Just as he finished speaking, the starlight had already disappeared. Lin Chen knelt on one knee and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His 7 orifices were bleeding, and the bones in his body were cracking. Little Fairy hurriedly supported him and quickly removed the Aries wristband. She said anxiously, Lin Chen, are you all right? Don't scare me. Lin Chen glanced at Little Fairy and didn't even have the strength to speak. The light in his eyes gradually dimmed. Damn it, I didn't expect that I would die here, Lin Chen sighed in his heart. He used the second flick of the Aries wristband, causing his body to shatter from the explosive power. Even his heart and battle chi fate wheel were showing signs of shattering. There was nothing he could do, but if he didn't use it a second time, he wouldn't be able to defeat such a strong enemy. He just said that his name is Lin Xingqian. Just like me, his surname is Lin. My strange birthmark also reacted to him. Could it be that he is related to my background? It's a pity that I'm going to die here. My background doesn't matter anymore. Damn it, his entire body has been destroyed by that power. What should I do? Little Fairy was burning with anxiety. Suddenly, she had an idea. She said excitedly, Lin Chen, don't die yet. Where did you put the immortal phoenix feather that you stole? It can still save your life. Lin Chen didn't have the strength to speak. When his body shattered, Little Shadow hurriedly took out the 2 green boxes from the peach blossom plant pouch. Little Fairy was delighted. She immediately opened the green light and placed one of the immortal phoenix feather on Lin Chen's chest. She activated a trace of battle chi and the immortal phoenix feather burned. Lin Chen was bathed in the flames of the phoenix feather. However, before the little demoness could rejoice, her expression changed again. Damn it! His life force is still collapsing. The immortal phoenix feather's recovery ability can't keep up with the speed of his collapse. He has entered a state of death. Little Fairy's heart was filled with regret. She didn't expect that Lin Chen would die because of her. She had always been bold, but she didn't expect that she would cause the death of such a young talent. A seemingly miraculous power was about to erupt from Lin Chen's body. At this time, the flames of the immortal phoenix feather burned Lin Chen. Although it couldn't save him, it sucked in all the purple-red elemental balls around the sacred phoenix feather. Woo Lin Chen, don't die! Little Fairy cried for the first time in her life. You could have run away just now. Why did you turn back? Wouldn't you have been able to leave if you had handed over the immortal phoenix feather? You're so stupid. If you had kissed me again, I might have come back to life this time, Lin Chen's voice sounded. Little Fairy wiped her tears and said, If I had kissed you again, would you have come back to life? Chapter 947. In the south of Dark Island, the 5 sages and the Taotai were fighting. Then, the Qin family's sword sage, Qin Jintian, and Lien Wanjin had infiltrated. Bang! Bang! 2 earth-shattering sounds reverberated in the sky, attracting Lien Wanjin and Qin Jintian's attention. What's that sound? It's coming from inside Dark Island. Something's not right. Even a second stage sage might not be able to create such a terrifying commotion in Dark Island. The situation has changed. Let's go inside Dark Island to take a look. The 2 sages focused their eyes and rushed into the depths of Dark Island. Stupid Lin Chen, you dare to lie to me? The little demoness raised her hand and wanted to slap Lin Chen, but he immediately said weakly, Hey, I'm a wounded person. If you hit me, what if you kill me again? The little fairy then realized that Lin Chen was bathing in the flames of the immortal phoenix feather, and there was also a wisp of purple flames. What is this? The little fairy was bewildered. She had just confirmed that Lin Chen's injuries were too serious. Even the immortal phoenix feather couldn't save him. Looks like I have another opportunity. A beam of red light spread out from Lin Chen's back, and the phoenix wings that were surrounded by a faint red light began to evolve. Lin Chen opened the system screen. As expected, after he absorbed the Great Flame Sacred Phoenix's attribute light ball, the system kept popping up screens. Host has received 120,000 Great Flame True Phoenix Bloodline points, 100,000 Great Flame True Phoenix Bloodline points. Because the host is in a special state of burning the immortal phoenix feather to repair the body, the Great Flame True Phoenix Bloodline and the True Flame Purple Phoenix Bloodline have merged. His True Flame Purple Phoenix Bloodline had merged with the Great Flame True Phoenix Bloodline? Under normal circumstances, the True Flame Purple Phoenix Bloodline was inferior to the Great Flame True Phoenix Bloodline. The former's growth limit was a beginner stage 8 sacred beast, and it was rare. The Great Flame True Phoenix bloodline's growth limit was peak stage 8. Its ancestor was the divine beast Taisher Flame Phoenix. Although they had the same ancestor, they had different branches. But Lin Chen's body was in a state of collapse, and with the burning of the immortal phoenix feather as an opportunity, he merged the Great Flame True Phoenix's bloodline with the True Flame Purple Phoenix's bloodline. The rebirth of the twin phoenixes had pulled Lin Chen back from the gates of hell. Motherf ** Ker. Using this war god bracer before reaching the saint realm is suicide. The second flick of the finger shattered my life force. This time, I have the immortal phoenix feather and bloodline fusion. Next time, I won't be so lucky. Bloodline fusion and immortal phoenix feather were constantly healing Lin Chen's wounds. When he was unable to move, he discovered that the white-robed youth had dropped a 5-light supreme treasure chest. As for the attribute light ball, it was absorbed by the god of war gauntlet. Every time Lin Chen looked at it, his heart would be stimulated. The attribute ball of light no longer belonged to him, Lin Chen. In the future, if there was no need, he really couldn't take out the Ares bracers. Lin Chen summoned the Dragon Emperor and put away the 5-light supreme treasure chest. When the system screen popped up, his expression gradually became sluggish. His mouth was wide open, and his face was full of disbelief. "Why is your mouth so wide open? If we don't leave now, those saints will find us." The little fairy curled her lips in annoyance. Clearly, she still held a grudge against Lin Chen for making fun of her just now. Lin Chen ignored her. His eyes were glued to the system screen. Host has opened the 5-light supreme treasure chest. Orange tier passive talent fragment. Supreme God Possession, 1/4. Orange tier passive talent. Supreme God Possession. Without any consumption, without any conditions, the power of the host's orange tier combat skills will be greatly increased, applicable to combat skills, not applicable to special cultivation methods and mental cultivation methods. Range of increase, unknown. Please collect the missing talent fragment to learn all the information about the passive talent. Orange tier passive talent fragment? Lin Chen's mouth trembled. The supreme treasure chest, dropped by Lin Xingchen, actually gave him an orange tier passive talent fragment? He didn't even dare to think about this in the past. If this talent can be stacked with the recharge rune, I wonder how much the increase will be. Lin Chen didn't have time to think. The little fairy immediately pulled him away and said to him, "Some saints have already passed by the Taotia's territory. We should go." Lin Chen was stunned. Go? Go where? Out of the Great Flame Sacred Phoenix's territory, of course. As long as we reach the southern region, these guys won't be able to catch up with us. The little fairy took the remaining immortal phoenix feather and returned the Ares bracer to Lin Chen. She carried him and flew quickly. She knew the dark island like the back of her hand. Along the way, the little fairy spat out blood again. Blood stained her robe, poignant and enchanting. She was hit twice by Lin Xingchen's sword. The sword aura invaded her body and caused great damage. Just relying on the silver and gold Saint Origin coins, as well as the 7 long Qingguo that Lin Chen gave her, was still not enough. It wasn't easy for a divine body to recover unless Lin Chen gave her all the long Qingguo produced by the long Qingshu. However, this would delay Lin Chen's plans. He had another choice. Eat it. Lin Chen, who was bathed in the flames of the immortal phoenix feather, took out a sealed jade bottle. Even the little fairy couldn't help but be moved by the pills in the bottle. A first-grade divine pill. Why do you have this? This was an 8th-grade divine pill. Even with her status, it was difficult for her to enjoy it. Lin Chen was just a genius on the genius roll. How could he have an 8th-grade divine pill? Don't think that I have nothing but my handsomeness. I have a few 8th-grade alchemists working for me. Lin Chen grinned. The little fairy stuck out her tongue and said, "Don't blush when you brag." The little fairy looked deeply at Lin Chen. She wasn't a pretentious person. She took the divine pill and swallowed it. Whoosh! Her divine body glowed with nourishment. Her wounds healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The meridians and Saint Origin energy that were torn by the sword aura were quickly repaired. The power of a divine pill was extraordinary. If Lin Chen consumed it, his body wouldn't be able to withstand such a huge amount of energy. Lin Chen gave her such a precious pill, proving his trust in her. Their trust in each other increased exponentially. As the little demoness supported Lin Chen, she stuffed something into his arms. Here, this is my Purple Cloud token. If you have time, you can come to the Purple Cloud King Valley in the southern region to find me. My name is enough to let you live a good life in the Purple Cloud King Valley. Lin Chen smiled and said, "So awesome? Then I'll go in 2 days. I want to find the prettiest girl there to accompany me for a few nights." TSK, the prettiest girl in the Purple Cloud King Valley is me. Then you'll come? Dream on. No way. In 2 hours, the energy of the sacred elixir allowed the little fairy to recover while she hurried on with Lin Chen. The two of them arrived at the end of the sacred phoenix's territory. The dark fog dissipated slightly. This was the route that Lin Xingchen took to kill his way into the Dark Island. Lin Chen, who was still bathing in the flames of the immortal phoenix feather, suddenly asked the little fairy, "Oh right, there are so many forces in the sacred boundary. Which force is in control of the sacred prison? Is there a way to enter?" After Lin Chen arrived at the sacred boundary, the most powerful person he had come into contact with was the little fairy in front of him. Maybe he could get some information about the sacred prison from her. Lin Chen couldn't forget the Orange Rank Heart Sutra, Tai Heaven concealing technique. The little fairy was surprised. "Why are you asking this? Do you want to go in?" Lin Chen scratched his head. "I have a friend who doesn't want to work. He was caught stealing a car. I want to find a chance to visit him." The little fairy, ? Chapter 948. The holy prison doesn't belong to any force. To be precise, it belongs to the gods. The fairy's words were shocking. The holy prison specializes in imprisoning the most vicious criminals in the sacred boundary, but the gods are rarely seen. Throughout the year, there is a holy prison tribunal that replaces the gods. Their existence is the most independent existence in the sacred boundary. Lin Chen's expression was solemn. "I heard that there was a prison break in the holy prison. What happened?" The fairy shook her head. "That was an exception. Other than that, no one in the history of the holy prison was able to escape. It is said that the female demon appeared in the holy prison out of thin air. It seems that even the holy prison tribunal did not know where she came from. She killed her way from the 19th level to the 1st level by herself, releasing countless criminals. It's said that she even took away some hidden experts. Even my master's expression changed when he talked about this matter. I only vaguely remember that my master once revealed that the female demon had fought with the gods of the holy world. As for who won or lost, I don't know. Is that so?" Lin Chen pretended not to change his expression, but his heart trembled a few times. Damn, that black-clothed woman had fought with a true god? To be able to break into the holy prison alone and force the gods out, then she was very likely to be a god? I've been targeted by a god? Damn, what kind of luck is this? Lin Chen broke out in cold sweat. He thought that after cultivating to the saint realm, he could at least contend with that mysterious woman. Now, it seemed that the saint realm was not enough. The little fairy gave Lin Chen a stern look. "If you really have any acquaintances who have been captured and sent to the holy prison, I advise you to stop thinking about it. That is an eternal hell, and no one can come out. Similar upheavals like before have already made the holy prison even more heavily guarded. The only way to enter is to be captured and sent in. I'm just asking. Don't worry, I'm not someone who likes to court death." Lin Chen smiled. The little demoness rolled her eyes at him charmingly. "Who knows? Some people look weak, but when they fight, they don't care about life and death. If they don't accept it, they'll fight." Lin Chun had to go to the holy prison. The 9 great demonic eyes of the 9 prefectures still needed the 9 karma nail unique to the holy prison to suppress them. Otherwise, the 9 prefectures would definitely be plunged into chaos 100 years later. The Tai Futian scripture would determine Lin Chen's future. An orange tier mental cultivation method would be his most powerful asset when fighting against many powerful warriors. Maybe I can find that mysterious woman. Back then, she entered the holy prison all by herself. Maybe she has some special method to enter. Lin Chen looked at the faintly discernible devil seal on his palm and smiled bitterly in his heart. Boom! Space shook for a moment, and Lin Chen's bloodline was suddenly reborn. The host's true flame purple phoenix bloodline has fused with the true flame phoenix bloodline. Bloodline energy value, 47. 5 million points. Bloodline fusion complete. My phoenix wings have also evolved. My and the Dragon Emperor's battle power has also increased. In terms of speed, there shouldn't be many who are faster than me at the same level. Lin Chun put away his purple phoenix wings and arrived at the end of Dark Island with the little demoness. A ray of sunlight pierced through the surface of the sea. This place was surrounded by the sea, and the sea was vast. The dark island behind them was covered in a dark fog. I still have important things to do. Take this with you. I will be able to sense your location within a certain distance. The little demoness handed him a jade scroll. Lin Chun accepted it, and the little demoness said with a smile, "You are my type. I, the little demon empress, will make you my friend. I will protect you from now on." Lin Chun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Alright, ha. The little demoness was also his type. As the little demoness stepped into the air and left, she smiled sweetly at Lin Chun. Waving her hand, she said, "Lin Chun, you'd better not die. I'll be waiting for you on the Demon Geniuses leaderboard. Otherwise, the next time we fight, it'll be boring." Lin Chun shook his head and laughed. He walked out of Dark Island and flew into the air. He opened the peach blossom pouch and released the 2 sisters. "Prince Lin Chun, are you all right?" Qin Miao immediately sized up Lin Chun. "I'm fine, we escape. However, the crisis has not been resolved, and the Sage Realm experts chasing after me have not stopped, so we have to hurry." Lin Chun smiled. Qin Jian's heart trembled as she asked in surprise, "The Sage Realm experts chasing after you? Let's talk as we walk." Lin Chun brought the 2 sisters and briefly explained the situation of Dark Island. The 2 girls were both shocked and afraid. Lin Chun had actually provoked a large group of Sage Realm experts? However, if not for this, they would not have been saved. If not for Lin Chun, the 2 sisters would have been buried in the mouth of Tao Tai. However, Lin Chun had gained a lot from this trip to Dark Island. The little demoness had given Lin Chun the treasure vault of the Great Flame True Phoenix, causing his foundation to become even more abundant. However, the most important thing was the information he had encountered and learned. The War God Bracer was still full of doubts. However, this item was definitely Lin Chun's final trump card. Not to mention a punch, Lin Chun could only use it once to flick his finger. 2 times would definitely kill him. Lin Xingchen? Just who was this person? His birthmark actually had a weak reaction to this person. What was even more terrifying was that this person's strength was simply heaven-defying. His life force was as young as the geniuses on the genius ranking, but the geniuses on the genius ranking were not even worthy of carrying his shoes. The Great Flame Sacred Phoenix, which had an extremely strong vitality, was killed by him with a single slash. The mysterious little demoness was defeated by him with 2 slashes. At that time, Lin Xingchen seemed to have been heavily injured. If he had not been so conceited and taken the War God Bracer head-on, he would have died without a doubt. It's really difficult to solve this mystery. I'm still too weak. If I had the strength of a saint, I would have just killed these guys directly. There wouldn't be so much trouble. Lin Chun collected his thoughts and maintained the innate shadow art as he flew, suppressing his aura. This was the southern region. There were many seas and islands. Lin Chen wore the Thousand Illusion mask and transformed into the Jundok Shui. The two girls were shocked. He could actually perfectly disguise himself as the Jundok Shui from the Black Horse Club? He carefully disguised the two girls. As long as they found the territory of a rank 4 faction, they would usually be able to find a large spatial passage that could teleport them back to Xuanyu or the Mystic Realm. Lin Chen also solemnly instructed the two girls to immediately leave him, if necessary, and return to the Mystic Realm. Little Fairy was able to leave Dark Island so quickly because she had the map of Dark Island. She entered Dark Island after passing by the Mystic Realm. As for the Saints, Lin Chen was not sure when they would rush out from the other side of Dark Island. The three of them flew for half a day and landed in the territory of a rank 4 holy nation, Fu Saint Nation. Holy empires were the ancient empires of the Holy World. Establishing a nation within the sacred boundary was like establishing a sect. It required a saint realm cultivator and a plant of fortune. Holy nations were not divided into rank. Ancient nations without a saint realm cultivator had already been destroyed in history. On a small island at the edge of Blue Flower Island, there was a pavilion built nearby. A group of elderly and children lined up to receive medicinal pills, cultivation resources, or to express their gratitude, forming a long line. Everyone, don't worry. There will be pills. This epidemic will be controlled. In front of the long line was a clinic. There was only one white-clothed girl sitting there. She was elegant and ethereal, and her slender figure was like a willow branch. She was wearing a cloak, so her face was hidden. She was handing out pills and herbs to the elders and children in the line. Splat! Water splashed everywhere. A group of Yuan Venerate youths returned and laughed excitedly. "Grandpa, we hunted a desolate sea fish. Eating the bones of the desolate sea fish will stabilize the epidemic in everyone's bodies." Rumble! As soon as he finished speaking, the surface of the sea was stirred up. A ferocious giant creature with countless barbs on its head appeared and said in human language, "I can eat to my heart's content again, Ga Ga Ga." The youths were shocked. It was a rank 7 saber-toothed dragonfish. It had followed them all the way? The saber-toothed dragonfish pounced on the group of youths. The speed of a Yuan Venerate was far inferior to that of a rank 7 beast. Whoosh! The white-clothed girl turned into a shadow. She waved her slender hand and set up a battle aura barrier to block the dragonfish's bite. She hurriedly pushed the group away and shouted, "Go to the Imperial Guard commander in the city and help him. Everyone, leave this place quickly." The youths gritted their teeth and used their movement techniques to escape. The group of elders and women were horrified. "Princess, no. Run. Princess is in danger. Come back quickly." This dragonfish's strength exceeded 9 million dragon power points. The white-clothed girl could not block it for long before her battle aura barrier was torn apart. The white-clothed girl's delicate body trembled slightly. The dragonfish bit down, and a fierce and violent blood-chi hurricane tore the girl's cloak apart, revealing her true appearance. Chapter 949. Boom! The saber-toothed dragonfish stopped in its tracks and couldn't move forward anymore. When the dark calamity battle aura dissipated, a silver-robed lady appeared in front of her. "Are you all right?" the young man asked without turning around. The lady replied, "Yes, be careful, young master." As soon as she finished speaking, rip! The young man's fingertips flashed, and the dragonfish was cut into two. Its blood and chi were crushed, and its flesh and blood were separated. The saber-toothed dragonfish died with its eyes wide open and slowly fell to the shore. The person who attacked was Lin Chen. He happened to pass by and saw this scene, so he saved it. "All right, it's fine now. I've also taken care of this fellow's companions in the sea." When Lin Chen turned around, the lady suddenly panicked. "No, young master, don't look at me." When Lin Chen's gaze landed on the lady's face, he was suddenly stunned. The lady's temperament and figure were quite extraordinary, but her face was extremely ugly. No, it couldn't be described as ugly. Perhaps it should be said that it was extremely disgusting in terms of appearance. If a person was ugly, it meant that they still had a human face. However, the lady in white in front of him didn't look like a human face anymore. Her facial bones were distorted, and one of her eyeballs was big and the other was small. Her mouth was almost invisible, and there were hook-shaped flesh in front of her nose. Her cheeks were stuck to pieces of purplish-green flesh. It was extremely strange. No, don't look. The lady quickly put on a second cloak and covered her face as she cried. She was most afraid of others seeing her true face. This was her nightmare since she could remember. If he sees my face, he will definitely despise me. I don't want to hear those voices anymore. The lady instantly recalled the painful memories of her childhood. Countless insults and mockery. She was once called the descendant of the devil, and so on, so beautiful. The young man praised from the bottom of his heart, and the lady was stunned. "Young master, are you mocking me?" The lady was so angry that her whole body trembled. She mistook Lin Chen's exclamation as mocking her. "No, you misunderstood." Lin Chen shook his head and pointed at the crowd running behind her. "The people behind you are crying. You can imagine how important you are to them. Your words and actions are elegant and proper. You're not an ordinary person. You must be of noble birth, but you care about the lives of the common people. Some of them ran towards you just now. They didn't care about their own lives." Lin Chen smiled. "It's true that people judge a book by its cover, but that doesn't stop me from seeing your beautiful heart." His smile made the woman feel as if she was bathed in a spring breeze, and she was slightly stunned. "Woo-woo, princess, you scared us to death just now." A group of old and young people surrounded the princess to protect her, crying. She hurriedly comforted everyone. When she turned back, the young man had already disappeared into the crowd. Fu Saint Nation, Imperial Palace. "Imperial Father, how can you hold a selection without permission? Your daughter has already decided to find my own husband. Look for it myself? With your temper, which man would dare to get close to you? Look at your age and you're still not married. You fight and kill like a man every day. Look at what you're wearing, what a scandal. I've already issued an imperial edict. It's useless for you to be stubborn." In the imperial palace, a middle-aged man dressed in a holy dragon robe criticized his daughter with resentment. She wore a red helmet and looked awe-inspiring. Her long hair was tied up, and she had beautiful eyebrows. Her snow-white face was cold and elegant, and her figure was slender. The most conspicuous thing was her pair of round and full legs. She was nearly 1.9 meters tall. If she wasn't dressed in red, she would definitely be an outstanding beauty. I don't care. In any case, I won't find a man who's weaker than me. Right now, not many of these men can fight. They're all soft-footed shrimps. Go ahead and choose. When the time comes, I'll beat them all down." The beauty coldly snorted and turned to leave. The middle-aged man was very angry. He was about to fly into a rage when the old servant beside him hurriedly stopped him. "Your Majesty, don't be angry. It's not like you don't know the sixth princess temper. This girl is taking advantage of my face. I've spoiled her too much. Before Consort Lin passed away, I had hoped that they could be ordinary women. In the end, my fourth son died early and my fifth son left home. My sixth son became like this, and my seventh son is even more." When the man in the holy robe talked about Qi, he bitterly and dejectedly said, "I'm a failure of a father-emperor." The seventh princess of Fu Xing country was a princess who caused the entire country to tremble at the mention of her name. She was once the twin sister of the sixth princess. "Your Majesty, there's no need to blame yourself. The seventh princess situation was truly an accident. Even 2 level 8 alchemists were unable to reverse the poison curse of the Xing realm. Your Majesty has already done his best." The old servant bowed and reported. The man in the dragon robe sat back on the dragon throne and murmured, "These few years, I've also asked less about cheer. After a while, I'll go and visit her." "Your Majesty, this old servant has another question." "Speak." "Although the imperial edict for selecting a son-in-law has been issued, with the temper of the sixth princess, she must at least find a man whose strength is above the sixth princess." However, the sixth princess was already ranked 63511 in the genius rankings 5 years ago, not to mention now. With the princess's strength, not many people can control her. The man in the dragon robe smiled and said, "I've already predicted that in a few days, it will be my 100,000th birthday. I've already sent out a notice to the various countries, inviting the experts of the various sects and factions to a banquet. I've even asked them to bring their own disciples along. I'm afraid that they've already arrived on the island or are on their way there." The old servant bowed and said, "Your Majesty is wise. Send out the imperial edict and bring out all the dowry. Some prodigies won't act unless they see a rabbit. If we attract all of them here, it's time for this girl to get married." Lin Chun and the two sisters arrived at the Fu Xing Island of Fu Xing ancient country. The city on the island was very big. Today, the citizens were very excited, and good news was posted everywhere on the street. Lin Chun was very curious. After paying the entrance fee, before he could ask anything, a few young girls rushed up to Lin Chun and stared curiously at him. Big brother, are you also here to participate in the selection?" "That's right. Big brother is so handsome." "Hee, are you also here because the sixth princess is looking for a husband?" Seeing this, Lin Chun couldn't help but sigh. The country was really prosperous and the people were at peace. If the people were poor, why would they pay attention to these things? This proved that the ruler of the Holy Empire was someone who loved the people. "Although Big Brother is handsome, I'm a person with principles. First, I won't be a son-in-law. Second, I won't be a thief. Third, I won't rob you." A certain Lin's smile was like a blooming rose. Before the girls could react, someone in the crowd shouted, "Brother Lin, the sixth princess's dowry is being displayed in the Imperial City Plaza. Everyone, quickly go and take a look." The young girls were very happy. They pulled Lin Chun and ran. "Yay! Big brother, come with us to see the princess's dowry." The sisters followed them curiously. "These little rascals." Lin Chun shook his head and laughed. 15 minutes later, the Imperial City Plaza was filled with a sea of people. It was very lively. The mountains of treasures and silver Saint Origin coins were piled up, dazzling countless people. Peak rank 7 weapons, peak purple tier cultivation techniques, pill recipes, odd crystal fragments, the sixth princess's dowry, everything was there. Lin Chen's eyes trembled. He saw the dazzling 5-colored attribute treasure chests among the dowry. Chapter 950. The Imperial Edict has arrived. By the will of the heavens, the Emperor decrees that those who pass the examination and become the Emperor's son-in-law will be conferred the title of a first-rank official and enjoy a high salary. The dowry will belong to the Emperor's son-in-law, and he can enter the palace to choose a half-orange grade technique. Geniuses from all over the sacred boundary are welcome to participate. Those on the genius ranking will be exempted from the preliminary round and will advance to the selection round. There will be many generous rewards. A eunuch announced the imperial edict, causing an uproar. He could even choose a half-orange grade technique? This was an irresistible reward for any genius. I didn't expect such a generous reward. Looks like I'll have to give it a try. Interesting. Looks like the sacred lord of this country is going all out. I can't keep a low profile anymore. There's even the rare heavenly one holy water. Good guy. Some of the geniuses on the genius ranking hidden in the crowd began to move. The eunuch who announced the imperial edict smirked. This was the effect they wanted. Sure enough, by showing the dowry, the geniuses on the genius ranking would be tempted to participate. Jundok Shui Lin Mao, who was standing in the crowd, was dumbfounded. He was not shocked by the half-orange grade technique, nor was he shocked by the richness of the dowry. It was because there was a 5-light supreme treasure chest and 3 orange crystal treasure chests floating in the middle of the dowry. What the F***ck? It was a 5-light supreme treasure chest. F***ck, there's a spatial barrier set up by the saint inside the dowry. I can't get close to it. I'll have to use the Ares bracer if I want to. I don't want to be half dead again. Lin Chun stared at the 5-light supreme treasure chest a few miles away from him. He was very tempted. What kind of treasures had he gotten from the 5-light supreme treasure chest so far? Plant of Providence seeds. Orange-grade talent fragments. None of them were inferior. How could he miss out on this 5-light supreme treasure chest? Looks like I can only participate in the selection. I'll take the dowry and then leave. I can't keep a low profile anymore. Lin Chun walked to the registration pavilion at the side and walked to the counter. He took out the Black Horse Club's sect token and slammed it on the table. Number 85880 on the Genius ranking, Black Horse Club, Jundok Shui, registering for the election. As soon as he said this, many people in the hall looked at him in surprise. Someone had actually started registering for the Genius ranking so soon? The disguised Qin Miao stared blankly at Lin Chen's back, her eyes dimming. Qin Jian coldly snorted, "This Lin Chen really doesn't know what's good for him. Jian, you can't say that about Prince Lin Chen. Maybe he and the 6th princess are in love. Love my ass. He's just a playboy who loves every woman he sees. Jian, we have no right to interfere with Prince Lin Chen's decision, not to mention that he is our savior." Yes. He's really fast. Number 85,880? Although it's far from the 6th princess's ranking, it's still not bad. The registration officer at the counter was secretly delighted and immediately noted down Lin Chen's name. The little girls looked at Lin Chen's back with their mouths slightly agape. Didn't Big Brother say that he was a man of principles? A little girl in green wrinkled her nose and snorted, "A man's mouth is a liar. Mother was right, the more handsome a man is, the more likely he is to lie. He smells so good." In the Red Moon Palace, the 6th princess frowned as she rummaged through the drawers and jade cabinets in her room. "Father doesn't care about me at all. I'm not afraid of those people who came to participate in the selection, but just in case, I have to take out the imperial edict from before. Although I've let 7th sister down, I definitely won't marry a stranger." Finally, the 6th princess found a slightly old imperial edict after rummaging through it. Holding the imperial edict, the 6th princess's expression became much calmer. Outside the square, the registration was in full swing. Many geniuses with extraordinary backgrounds came out to register, causing many people to be stunned. The geniuses on the Genius ranking did not need to participate in the preliminaries and could be directly summoned to the palace. In the palace, Lin Chun and the rest were arranged to rest. The selection would be held the next day. This time, even the emperor would personally come to check on them. Although my cultivation has increased by quite a bit, there's still a time limit to using saint weapons. In order to avoid these problems, as long as I don't meet an opponent who requires my full strength, a peak tier 7 weapon is enough for me to deal with many situations. Lin Chun tapped on the fusion function and ordered, "System, fuse the +13 Dragon Glory and Moon Cutter, and the +13 Meridian Sword and Cyan Destiny Sword. Consumed 1 middle grade Heaven's Path point. Fusion successful. Host receives +12 Cyan Destiny Sword and +11 Moon Cutter." When a +13 low-grade weapon is fused with a high-grade weapon, it can inherit a +10 to +12 enhancement level. With 2 peak tier 7 weapons in hand, Lin Chun had 2 more weapons that he could use. The prerequisite for inheriting an enhancement level through fusion was that the two weapons were of the same grade. For example, if a Tier 8 weapon was fused with a plus 13 Tier 7 Dragon Glory, it would be impossible to create a plus 10 weapon. As long as I step into the Saint realm, I can immediately restore the embryonic form of my Saint Spear and two incomplete Tier 8 weapons to their peak state. It was not that Lin Chen did not have the ability to restore the Atlas Sword and Azure Moon to their peak state, but after they were fully restored, even if he dripped his blood on them, he would not be able to control the power of the two weapons. Even using them would be a problem. If he could not control the power, it would be useless no matter how powerful it was. Only when he stepped into the Saint realm would he be able to unleash the full power of the weapons. Consumed 16 high-grade cultivation technique soul essence, fused with half-orange grade movement technique dragon flash. Lin Chen fused with all his clones at the same time at lightning speed. The next day, the selection of the Holy Son-in-law officially began. The palace was bustling with activity. In the courtyard of the front palace, seats were built in the air. They were specially prepared for the experts who were participating in the selection of the Holy Son-in-law. There were no empty seats outside the palace. Many officials, island masters, generals, and high-ranking officials were seated. 10 arenas were set up in the air. Each of them was dozens of acres. They could be clearly seen outside the palace. Those who had reached the Heaven Star realm could watch the battle completely by activating their battle chi. All the distinguished guests and participating geniuses entered the venue and sat in the seats in the air. Lin Chen and the two sisters sat quietly at the last row of seats, looking around the room. There was no lack of powerful geniuses in this selection. Some of them were ranked 70,000 or even 60,000 on the genius ranking. They were even stronger than the pavilion master of the Extreme Sky Pavilion, Qin Xiaotian, whom Lin Chen had met before. TSK. It seems like I have to show some of my true abilities if I want to win this competition. Lin Chen was amazed. However, he was no longer the same as he was in the past. When he was fighting against the Dragon Crown Prince, who was ranked 60,000 plus on the genius ranking, he still had to give it his all. However, he was now a second Tribulation Combat Emperor. His cultivation was not much weaker than these top geniuses. The monarch of Fu Xing country followed closely behind, bringing his own subordinates with him as they slowly walked out. The king walked with majestic step. His body emitted a golden holy light that shone brightly. His eyes were filled with a domineering aura that made all living beings submit to him. His dragon aura was domineering. He sat on the dragon throne and laughed. "Welcome, everyone. My daughter has been busy with cultivation in the past few years and has forgotten about this important matter. If I can recruit a holy son-in-law at this event, it will be a relief to me. Let's not waste any more words. Geniuses, please come to the stage according to the group number you received when you registered." Just as the king's laughter fell, a cold laughter like that of a night owl echoed. How can this interesting banquet of geniuses miss out on this old lady? King Fu, how have you been? Two ghostly figures appeared in the air. A black-robed old lady laughed evilly and sat down while holding the hand of a beautiful girl. Lin Chen's eyes narrowed. This old lady was also a Saint Realm cultivator. Moreover, Lin Chen could faintly feel that her pressure was no less than that of the Dark Pavilion's old ancestor, Tianma. Another Saint Realm cultivator? I couldn't ask for more. System, activate the Divine Stealing Omen. Chapter 951. This is great. I have 120 rune stones, and all my runes are at level 6 now. It's best if I can get a few more saints, haha. Lin Chen's heart was carefree. He had secretly made a fortune by stealing 2 Saint Realm experts. The king smiled and said, "So it's an old friend, please have a seat." 2 eunuchs floated in the air and sat on 2 thrones. The beauty who came with the old woman bowed and said politely, "Thank you." Her voice was very light, and it was not pretentious at all. It was soft like jade, and it revealed her true feelings. "King, should we invite the imperial advisor over as well?" the old servant whispered to the monarch of Fu Xing nation. The king shook his head. "No need. She has no ill intentions. I can feel it." Whoosh, 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 whoosh. These geniuses were all above the first tribulation, and none of them were ranked lower than 90,000. "All of you are talented and beautiful. Everyone, let's begin." The king waved his sleeves, and the son-in-law selection officially began. The son-in-law selection this time was simple, and it did not involve other fields. It was purely based on combat power and talent. This was because the first prince and second princess were in charge of the Fu Xing ancient nation. The king knew that the sixth princess needed a man who could defeat her in terms of combat power. At this time, Lin Chen, who was sitting on the opposite side, was part of the second batch. He took his time and looked at the progress of the dragon flash movement technique. I've finished fusing my clone's cultivation memories. Next, I can strengthen it. Look, what do you think of that red-haired kid? He's ranked 81001 on the genius ranking, and he's just like his father. He has a heroic temperament. The Saint Realm old woman's aura was extremely cold, but she was very kind to her granddaughter. She pointed at the red-haired kid on the stage. "Grandma." The gentle girl frowned. "You promised that you're just here to relax. Why are you looking for a husband for me?" The old woman laughed. "I'm just in the mood. Since you're not interested in him, let's not talk about him." Boom. Whoosh. Whoosh. In the central battle platform, the saber chi swept over like a tornado, engulfing everything. The moment the battle started, someone had already decided the victor. This person had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a straight nose, and a handsome appearance. He held a 3-winged saber in his hand and defeated his opponent in less than 20 rounds. His opponent was a genius ranked 77950 on the genius ranking. It would be difficult for him to even last 20 rounds against him. Although there was no need to risk one's life in a martial arts competition, but in a true life and death battle, the result might not be much different. What a powerful move! Who is this person? The Swift Saber Emperor, Lin Yidao, ranked 68522 on the genius list. What an overbearing aura! The spectators discussed animatedly. Many young girls' eyes flashed with extraordinary splendor. Since ancient times, beauties loved heroes. This young man was handsome and cold, attracting the attention of many girls. Even some female prodigies from the royal family couldn't help but be tempted. "My good granddaughter, what do you think of him?" the old woman asked again with a smile, knocking from the side. The gentle beauty rebuked, "Grandma, okay. Our good granddaughter doesn't like him. Grandma won't say anything." In the end, the first round ended in 45 minutes. There were only 10 winners, and all of them were geniuses ranked 82,000 and above on the genius ranking. The geniuses that made it to the next round were among the top geniuses even in the 4th grade sect. Some of them were even ranked at the top of 70,000, and were extremely powerful. The king waved his sleeve, and the saint light rippled like waves. The faint saint light condensed into water droplets and dripped onto the heads of the geniuses that made it through the battles. The injuries and exhaustion of the geniuses all recovered to their original state. The eyes of the geniuses that didn't participate in the battles lit up. If they could recover immediately, then they wouldn't have to worry about exhaustion even if they fought continuously. This is the secret technique of the Fu Saint country, Clear Lotus Holy Water technique. The old woman in black squinted her eyes. Hee, thank you for your hard work. The second round begin. The king smiled. With a swoosh, 20 figures stepped onto the battle platform. Lin Chen carried his sword and stepped into the air. His silver robe fluttered in the wind as he gracefully and leisurely stepped onto the second fighting platform. Lin Chen's opponent was a cold and arrogant man with a painting of mountains and rivers in his hand. He had the aura of an emperor that ruled over tens of thousands of miles. Could this be the 76950 Genius Rankings Overlord, Ao Jiuxiao? This little guy is going to suffer. The king looked at Lin Chen's battle platform. The second battle platform, are you going to get down yourself, or am I going to throw you down? Ao Jiuxiao was extremely conceited and said coldly, "Oh, you're quite arrogant." Lin Chen raised his eyebrows and said with a handsome smile, "I feel that this is too unfair." The crowd didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The opponents in this competition were completely random. If you're not strong enough, don't come up. How can you talk about fairness here? Is there something wrong with his brain? As one of the most handsome men in the sacred boundary, I should give you a fairer chance. If you don't get down from the battle within 3 rounds, I will forfeit. Otherwise, others will say that I'm bullying you. Boom. Everyone's mind went blank. 3 rounds? That's Ao Jiuxiao. Even a genius ranked 69,000 wouldn't dare to say such a thing. Everyone looked at Jundok Shuai's smiling face. This guy really used the most casual tone to say the most arrogant words. Who the hell is bullying who? Damn it, you're courting death. Ao Jiuxiao glared. Boom. The painting in Ao Jiuxiao's hand spiraled into the sky and spread out. Thousands of battle aura avatars appeared one after another. Thousands of majestic mountains, rivers converging into the sea, tigers crouching, and dragons coiling. It was as if a huge painting had spread out and covered the entire area. Immovable thousand caddies. Wind, forest, fire, mountain. Ao Jiuxiao was pointing at the mountains and rivers. Inside the painting, thousands of battle chi mountains were gathered, and they all rushed towards Lin Chen in an imposing manner. The battle aura had not arrived, but it was already suppressing the opponent. That's Ao Jiuxiao, right? What a domineering aura. He really has the right to be arrogant. I'm afraid he already has the foundation to reach the 75,000 rank. Who's the kid he's fighting? Ao Jiuxiao used his full strength right away. I'm afraid that kid won't even last 2 rounds. The geniuses in the first round were secretly shocked. The king exclaimed, "This young man's half-orange level mental cultivation method, grand hegemony, has already been cultivated to the mastery stage. If that old man were to use this technique, I'm afraid the entire island would be shattered." Lin Chen smiled faintly and casually raised his hand. Sword, come. Clang. The green destiny sword was unsheathed, and the sword light whistled like a flash of lightning. This sword. The king and the old woman in black's eyes lit up at the same time. The sword was like a rainbow, and it slashed horizontally to meet the 1,000 mountains. Bang, bang, bang. Thousands of mountains were shattered, and battle aura exploded. Ao Jiuxiao retreated quickly, his face full of shock. What sword technique is this? Lin Chen's sword was able to shatter thousands of mountains, and the momentum of grand hegemony was disintegrated by this sword. Chapter 952. Whoosh. Sword light surged, and the sword returned to his hand. Lin Chen held the sword in his hand. The green destiny sword was 3 feet and 3 inches long, and the blade was dark green. Lin Chen smiled and said, "It doesn't matter what sword technique it is. What matters is that I will be the one to use it." Lin Chen held the sword and slashed vertically. The sword aura condensed from thousands of fire dragons was absorbed into the sword, and the flames flickered with starlight as the sword slashed explosively. Rumble! The terrifying sword aura seemed to tear the heavens apart, and it lit up the clouds like a rainbow. Ao Jiuxiao's expression changed. This unknown kid actually had such terrifying attack power? Raging waves engulfed mountains and rivers. Ao Jiuxiao used his strongest defensive technique, and the painting of world hegemony transformed into a raging wave that came crashing down. It could topple mountains and overturn seas, destroying everything in its path. Splat! Rip! The starlight sword aura mixed with crimson flames burned the sky, burning the raging waves. The sword split the painting of world hegemony, and all of its momentum collapsed. Ao Jiuxiao was cut down by the sword aura. Blood spurted from his left shoulder, and a shocking sword wound appeared, almost splitting him in half. 5 attribute light balls rolled down from where he was. My hegemony, no. Ao Jiuxiao's eyes were bloodshot, and his flesh was torn apart, revealing his bones. He looked extremely miserable. The heroes were shocked, and the 2 saints were astonished. My God, who is this person? He defeated Ao Jiuxiao in 2 moves. It's too terrifying. When he slashed down just now, it was as if he wanted to split the sky open. I was scared stiff. The prodigies swallowed their saliva. The power of that sword was so deep. The king exclaimed, "What a mysterious sword technique! It's domineering and unparalleled. The sword technique is mixed with pure power, and the fire element battle aura is extremely pure. The sword technique's grade is not high, but it has a feeling of returning to the origin." Everyone took a closer look. It was one of the 2 names displayed on the platform. Prodigy ranking 85880. 1 swords only, Jundok Shuai. Affiliation, Black Horse Club, grade unknown, Jundok Shuai? What kind of name is this? Does he have any shame? Black Horse Club? What kind of power is this? The Black Horse Club? Could it be the faction that Lin Chen belongs to? More than a month ago, an unprecedented upheaval occurred in the genius rankings. More than 30 geniuses fell at the same time, and it was this Black Horse Club's doing. This person is actually from the Black Horse Club. All the geniuses cried out involuntarily in shock. This was too ridiculous. There was a difference of almost 10,000 ranks between the 2 sides. The difference in level wasn't just a little bit. It was actually a genius from the Black Horse Club who had insta-killed Ao Jiuxiao. News of what had happened at the Conference of the 4 Powers had yet to reach the southern region. Everyone's impression of the Black Horse Club was still stuck at the fact that 30 geniuses had fallen. The winner is Jundok Shuai. The referee announced. Lin Chen politely cupped his hands, sheathed his sword, and took the attribute light ball. Host has received 9 advanced cultivation technique soul essences, 1 advanced wind energy, 1 advanced spirit, 1800 strengthening points. Heavens, that young man is too strong. He actually defeated Meng Hong Saint Empire's Prince Ao Jiuxiao in 2 moves. With his strength, could he be in the top 70,000 of the genius rankings? The spectators gasped in amazement. That godly killing move had stunned everyone. The king flicked his sleeve, and a drop of holy light fell on Ao Jiuxiao's head, healing his injuries in a few breaths' time. He glared at Lin Chen with his red eyes, clenched his teeth, and left. He was filled with resentment and unwillingness, but more than that, he was afraid. This person's strength was too terrifying. He was much more arrogant than him. Lin Chen was neither servile nor overbearing as he calmly returned to his seat. There was nothing to be proud of. Ao Jiuxiao was a second Tribulation Combat Emperor, and Lin Chen was also a second Tribulation Combat Emperor. His cultivation wouldn't fall too far behind the geniuses on the genius rankings. His elemental attributes had increased by nearly 1,000 times compared to before the Conference of the 4 Powers. The average advanced elemental energy had reached 100 points, which was equivalent to 10 billion intermediate elemental energy. The 240% increase in mental cultivation technique strengthening was extremely terrifying. His pure strength was at the level of a 3 Tribulation Body Refinement Emperor. Facing a genius of the same level, as long as he was serious, he could defeat his opponent in 1 move. However, after Lin Chen broke through to the second Tribulation Combat Emperor, His opponents were either Sage Realm experts or Saint Beasts, and Lin Xingqian, who was so strong that it defied the heavens. As a result, even though his cultivation had broken through 2 levels, there wasn't much of a difference, but if he was in the genius rankings, it would be extremely terrifying. The old woman in black clicked her tongue in wonder. I didn't expect that even this old woman had misjudged him. Granny, what did this young man use to defeat that young master? The grade of his swordsmanship isn't high. Even the girl in the plain dress couldn't help but be curious. The old woman in black glanced at her and thought to herself, could it be that my dear granddaughter likes this type of young man? His swordsmanship is at most at the peak of the purple tier. However, his sword at the peak of the 7th grade has a unique sharpness that is more than twice as powerful as a weapon of the same level. Even I haven't seen it before. Most importantly, his fire elemental battle chi is awe-inspiring and vigorous. It's the strongest I've ever seen. It's not a power that a second tribulation combat emperor can control. The girl in the plain dress was astonished. If he's so strong, doesn't that mean he's stronger than my royal brother? After saying that, she glanced at Lin Chen. Not necessarily, but even if he's not as strong, he's not too far off. What do you think? Do you like this young man? The old woman in black smiled. The girl in the plain dress mumbled, Granny, if you continue to be like this, I'll ignore you. All right. I won't mention it anymore. The old woman in black beamed with joy. The Black Horse Club is indeed a sect that's in the limelight. Looks like there's something to look forward to this time. The king was secretly delighted. After another 2 hours, the winners and losers of the 20 geniuses were all decided. The 3rd batch, the 4th batch, the 5th batch. There were a total of 100 geniuses participating in the genius list this time. Every one of them was a powerhouse and would be considered outstanding in a 4th grade sect. As for Lin Chen, he didn't pay attention to what was happening on the battle stage. He was wholeheartedly consuming the high-level technique essence to integrate the records of the ancient Saint Odd crystal cultivation secret technique. Now that he had the foundation of 3 spirit plants of fate, he could try to cultivate an odd crystal. The spirit plants of fate absorb the heaven and earth's fate to be born. The odd crystal is formed from the condensation of heaven and earth's energy. It can convert the special energy of heaven and earth into the spirit plants of fate and condense the spirit plants of fate. 3 or more spirit plants of fate are responsible for absorbing energy, compressing energy, condensing energy, and forming an odd crystal. Lin Chen exclaimed in his heart. The ancient god was truly a shocking genius. He could actually create such a heaven-defying technique. He was bold and meticulous, whimsical and meticulous in realizing this idea. In the past, there was Tuo Xing who went against the heavens and changed his fate. He collected information from thousands of races and created the ultimate shadow. Then, there was the ancient god who created the odd crystal cultivation secret technique. The saint's world really is a vast and wondrous world filled with geniuses. Chapter 953. After Lin Chen completely integrated all the records of the odd crystal nurturing secret technique, he couldn't help but exclaim. The first condition for cultivating odd crystals was to need 3 plants of luck at the peak stage. The more plants of luck at the peak stage, the better. Secondly, he needed to absorb a large amount of special energy that could create an odd crystal and transfer it to the plants of luck. He needed to use a special method to absorb the special energy into the plants of luck and split it into several steps to condense a complete odd crystal. Lin Chen glanced at the peach blossom plant pouch and saw that little shadow was curled up into a ball and was in seclusion. After the previous rounds of battles and absorbing a large amount of resources, it began to usher in a small breakthrough and growth. Because this little guy didn't look like a fierce beast, Lin Chen couldn't tell what cultivation level it was at. The second round began. While Lin Chen was thinking, a day had passed and the second round of the competition had begun. One step at a time. First take the title of Holy Son-in-law and get the 5 light treasure chest in the dowry. Lin Chen went down the stage and his luck seemed to be extremely good. His second opponent was the Divine Travel Saber Emperor Lin Yidao. Sword Emperor versus Saber Emperor, it was a sensational battle. This was the highly anticipated Holy Son-in-law selection battle, and some royal families were very optimistic about Lin Yidao. His strength was enough to rank in the top 5. Boom! Clang clang clang! As soon as they entered the arena, the two instantly activated their movement techniques and exchanged blows. The saber aura was like a dragon winding around and every strike was heavy. The saber aura and sword shadows collided and the sword shadows were endless. Lin Chen seemed to be casually swinging his sword, but in fact, the sword light perfectly cut off the saber aura's explosive point. Very strong, they are both at the peak of the second tribulation, but Lin Yidao is more than 2 levels stronger than the guy just now. Lin Chen evaluated in his heart. Show me your full strength, I know you're not ordinary. Lin Yidao coldly slashed his saber at Lin Chen and the sword tip bounced back. When the saber blade was deflected, Jundok Shui smiled slyly. I'm not ordinary, I'm waiting for a prostitute. Bang! The sword light exploded into a field of starlight. Lin Chen used the silent step at full speed, flashed behind Lin Yidao, and slashed at his waist with both hands. Clang! Lin Yidao retreated and turned around. He held his saber and rotated the blade to parry Lin Chen's overbearing sword. Lin Yidao's arm went numb and his battle chi sputtered. He was surprised to find that this sword was even heavier and fiercer than before. Boom! Lin Chen used the silent step again and flashed towards Lin Yidao's back. At the same time, he slashed horizontally at Lin Yidao's neck with his dragon power and kicked Lin Yidao's anus with the 7 deadly pulling force and penetrating force. Yidao Lin was shocked. He hurriedly urged his defensive combat skill to protect his body. The saber beam protected his body as he slashed back. His speed is even faster than before. In addition to his swordsmanship, he also has a strange body-refining secret art. The moment the sword and saber collided, the Jundok Shui disappeared again and reappeared behind him. The Cyan Netherworld sword, which was imbued with Fire Calamity battle chi, stabbed out violently. F***ck. Lin Yidao almost cursed out loud. Are you F***king done yet? If you're a man, fight head-on. Why do you keep circling around behind others? Is this guy crazy? Why does he keep circling behind others? How perverted. Damn it, I'm getting a little excited. Shame. In broad daylight, the world was clear and bright. We're all men, but this Jundok Shui keeps attacking from behind. I even turned off the lights. I suddenly remembered that the Black Horse Club specializes in attacking from behind. How perverted. The spectators outside the Imperial City twitched their mouths. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. No matter how he fought, the Jundok Shui kept circling behind and attacking violently. With his strange speed, his body-refining combat skill, and his swordsmanship, it was impossible for Lin Yidao to defend himself every time. Motherf***, are you still AF** king man? Fight me head-on if you have the guts. Lin Yidao flew into a rage out of humiliation. This was the first time in his life that he had fought such a humiliating battle. How could there be such a person in the world? Specialized in attacking from behind? Lin Yidao's body circulated with the brilliance of 5 wind attribute odd crystal fragments. He condensed his battle chi, held his saber, and slashed horizontally. Extreme wind fall. The saber flashed chaotically as wind blades spread out like a huge net. In an instant, they gathered around Lin Chen and blocked his retreat. It's Lin Yidao's half-orange grade technique, the extreme wind fall saber technique. This is the strongest saber technique that blocks all the opponent's retreat. How is that kid going to deal with it? All the geniuses held their breath. This was a killing blow from more than 60,000 geniuses. Its power was extremely terrifying, and even a fourth tribulation combat emperor might not be able to withstand it. Chi. Rumble. The wind blades collapsed and the killing saber light collided with the Jundok Shui and exploded. It was an afterimage. All the geniuses were shocked. He actually dodged it? That was the full blow of the divine travel saber emperor. What a powerful spiritual perception. This kid predicted the trajectory of his attack and dodged it in advance. The old woman in black narrowed her eyes. The young man's mocking sneer came from behind Lin Yidao. You don't like to use a sword? Do you want me to take out my spear? What? Lin Yidao was shocked and quickly retreated. Thousands of red flames burned the sky as they flowed on the tip of the sword. Lin Chen raised his sword and slashed down. Rip! With a whistling sound, the orange light of the sword fell and slashed down. Lin Yidao was shocked and raised his saber to block. His defensive technique was like the roar of a true dragon as he activated the true dragon protective art. Chi. Bang. Lin Yidao's defense was torn apart like a piece of paper. Blood splattered everywhere. Dozens of attribute light balls rolled down. This is also a half-orange grade sword technique. It's even stronger than Lin Yidao's extreme wind fall. The monarch exclaimed. Lin Chen moved like a whirlpool and slashed at Lin Yidao's head, not giving him a chance to breathe. I forfeit. Swoosh. The tip of the sword was still 2 feet away from Lin Yidao's neck. The sword light was biting cold and sharp, making him break out in cold sweat. The difference between your current appearance and your previous appearance is a bit big. Lin Chen chuckled. Lin Yidao gritted his teeth. Winner takes all. You've won. There's nothing to say. Received 4 Heaven's Path points, 3 Advanced Wind Energy points, 200 Advanced Battle Chi Essence points, 12 Advanced Skill Essence points, 1,150 Strengthening points. Lin Chen, who had taken away the attribute light ball, calmly returned to his seat. His temperament was elegant and spirited, as if he had not experienced a great battle at all. It was a stark contrast to Lin Yidao, who was covered in blood. The Black Horse Club actually has such a strong person. This person's strength is seriously inconsistent with his ranking. If it was a battle of life and death, Lin Yidao would have died. He didn't overdo it. This proves that he is still at ease. The Black Horse Club is really abnormal. The geniuses were speechless. The high-ranking officials and ministers were all amazed. The audience was in an uproar. This young man who suddenly appeared was actually so powerful? A genius ranked over 80,000 defeated a genius ranked over 60,000? The woman in the plain dress looked at him curiously. The old woman in black nodded slightly, her eyes full of admiration. Very good little guy. This kid hasn't used his full strength. It seems that the son-in-law selection is still a bit underestimated. The king flicked his sleeve and healed Lin Yidao. Thank you, king. Lin Yidao cupped his fist. His face looked as if he had eaten feces as he left the battle stage and retreated to the side. So strong, the Qin sisters were shocked. Lin Chen's combat strength had improved by leaps and bounds. When he fought with the young pavilion master of the hidden pavilion, he still had to show some powerful trump cards. Now, Lin Yidao was several levels stronger than the young pavilion master of the hidden pavilion. He could actually defeat his opponent with a smile. Qin Juyan's heart palpitated as she muttered in her heart, "How long has it been? This Lin Chen is a monster." Chapter 954. There were only 32 geniuses left in the third round. Among these 32 geniuses, the lowest ranking was 80101. Most of them were ranked 70,000 or 60,000. There was even one that was ranked in the top 60,000. The sixth princess has arrived. At this moment, a eunuch announced. All the geniuses were shocked. The monarch stared into the distance and smiled. That lass, she's finally showing some interest. Ripples appeared in the void as the beauty moved gracefully. This time, the sixth princess was not armed. She was wearing a peach-red robe and had a slender waist. She had beautiful eyebrows and long hair that reached her waist. She had a cold face, bright eyes, white teeth, and a tall and slender figure. Her long and slender legs, which were as fair as jade, could be said to be a peerless beauty in the world. Many geniuses couldn't help but swallow their saliva subconsciously. The sixth princess's bones exuded a cold elegance and nobility, but there was also a bit of charm. Her clothes were not revealing, but the temperament between her eyebrows made the geniuses have a sense of abstinence that made them want to conquer her or be conquered by her. "This big sister is so beautiful," the young girl in a simple dress beside the old woman in black exclaimed. The old woman nodded with a smile. "She looks 70% like her mother, but my heir is still a little prettier." The sixth princess gracefully and slowly walked to her seat. She looked around and took in everyone's details. She felt calm in her heart. "Are these men fighting to become my husband? Or perhaps they're here for imperial father's dowry. None of them are good at fighting. They're only SOSO. The sixth princess's eyes paused on one person for a moment. This person is... The handsome young man in a silver robe had his eyes closed. He was calm and collected. As if he had sensed the sixth princess's gaze, the young man opened his eyes and smiled. His eyes were clear and calm. All the geniuses participating in the son-in-law selection had more or less heard of the sixth princess's beauty. Part of the motive was the dowry. After all, in the sacred boundary, there were never enough cultivation resources. However, the main motive was to become the golden son-in-law of the Holy Empire. However, the sixth princess did not feel the same scorching gaze from this young man as she did from the other men. He was really just smiling out of politeness. In the past, the sixth princess had encountered similar geniuses who pretended to be indifferent in an attempt to attract her attention. However, these people's intentions could not escape her eyes. They were not like this young man's clear eyes, which were as calm as an ancient well. He was completely uninterested in her. "Could it be that this princess's charm is not enough for you?" The sixth princess instinctively felt indignant. "You said that you're participating in the selection of a son-in-law, but you're not interested in the princess. Isn't this ruining your reputation?" Seeing that Lin Chen and the sixth princess didn't seem to have any feelings for each other, Qin Miao breathed a sigh of relief. Coming from an imperial family, the sixth princess put away her small emotions and came to her father. She bowed slightly and sat next to him. The monarch smiled and said, "I thought you wouldn't come." "Father, you must be joking." The sixth princess said indifferently, "It's about my life. How can I not come? No matter who wins in the end, they won't be my match." The monarch smiled faintly. "That's not necessarily true. Among the geniuses who came this time there are a few geniuses. You might not be able to win." The sixth princess smiled confidently. In terms of battle, she had never lost to anyone of her age. She was the future female martial saint of the Xing Fu ancient kingdom. She didn't think that there was a man who could conquer her among these geniuses. In the nearby ancient kingdoms and rank 4 forces, only a few top princes were able to match him. The third round began. With the sixth princess's appearance, the male geniuses seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. The moment they entered the battle stage, the battle became white-hot. The male geniuses present had seen many beauties, but the sixth princess's temperament and figure still captivated them. It could be said that her charm was unparalleled in the world. On the fourth battle stage, Lin Chen's opponent came up first. He was dressed in a green robe and looked handsome. With a smile on his face, he looked like a polite, noble young master. It was easy for people to have a good impression of him. This young man was Lin Chen's opponent. His appearance caused everyone's expression to become serious. The two sisters' faces also changed slightly. Genius ranking 64450, Blood Shadow, Chen Wuming. It's him? Chen Wuming, it's that bastard. Qin Zhiyan gritted his teeth. Lin Chen was curious, you know him? He was the one who sold information about our whereabouts to that green shadow thief, Qi Faming. As a result, my sister and I were kidnapped. The Chen clan and our Gu clan have always had a business relationship. At that time, we didn't think that he would do such a dirty thing. If my sister and I weren't protected by our clan's holy power trump card, we might have been defiled by this bastard and then sent to Tao Tai to be fed. Qin Zhiyan was furious. Even the pure and kind Qin Miao Er's eyes were filled with anger. It could be seen that she was really angry to the extreme. So it's a mortal enemy. That's good. Lin Chen smiled. His cold smile revealed an awe-inspiring murderous intent. If it was an enemy, then there was no need to be soft-hearted. He had already provoked a bunch of Saint Stage experts, so what if he provoked the Chen clan? The sacred boundary was so vast that just one domain could accommodate countless forces. He traveled back and forth between the 36 domains with just the 1,000 illusion mask and the innate shadow art. Who could catch him? Prince Lin Chen, don't be rash. You can't make any more enemies. Qin Miao didn't have time to stop Lin Chen. He leaped into the arena. The sixth princess stared at Lin Chen's arena with interest and snickered in her heart. Jundok Shuai? What kind of name is that? Is there anyone who praises themselves like that? The other battles either had a huge disparity in strength or were too low in level to attract her interest. Chen Wuming's ranking was only 1,000 places away from the sixth princesses. Although the sixth princess's ranking hadn't changed 5 years ago, Chen Wuming was still very powerful. Black Horse Club, I've heard of your name. You're very arrogant. Chen Wuming smiled gently, but there was an imperceptible trace of viciousness in his eyes. This person was a ruthless character. Lin Chen ignored him and turned to look at the king. King, I hope this battle can be changed to a life-and-death battle. Only one person can enter the arena. I hope the king and the judges won't interfere. Wow. The moment these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Even the sixth princess's expression changed slightly. The expressions of the old woman in black and the king were a bit unexpected. A life-and-death battle? This was a genius ranked 65,000th on the genius list. He was almost 2 levels stronger than Lin Yidao. Did this Jundok Shuai have absolute confidence? A life-and-death battle as soon as they met? Before the king could speak. Hey. Why are you making decisions on your own? I'm not going to have a life-and-death battle with you. Chen Wuming waved his hand and rejected. Don't think that I don't know the style of the Black Horse Club. You're a group of lunatics who don't care about life and death. Just follow the rules of choosing a son-in-law. If I can win, I'll win. If I can't, I'll withdraw. Hey, so angry. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. This person was really cunning. Chapter 955. Young friend Jundok Shuai. This life-and-death duel requires both of you to agree to it. It can't be established. The monarch smiled but was secretly shocked. This kid was like a peerless sword hidden in a scabbard. Blood would be spilled when it was unsheathed. He was obviously at ease in the battle with Lin Yidao, so no one could say who was stronger between him and Chen Wuming. Moreover, Chen Wuming had a powerful background. If he died here, it would be troublesome. Alright, then let's follow the rules of choosing a son-in-law. Lin Chen smiled faintly. He would never change his choice when he wanted to kill someone. TSK. How did I offend you? You want to have a life-and-death duel with me as soon as we meet. Chen Wuming clicked his tongue in wonder. His expression was full of calmness. I don't need a reason to kill in the Black Horse Club. Lin Chen stood in the wind with the green destiny sword in his hand. Fine, I'll play with you. Let's see if your sword skills are better or your mouth is better. Chen Wuming had a meteor-like scythe hanging on his body. It was dark and full of murderous intent. The crowd held their breaths and the high-ranking officials focused. The referee gave the order and the atmosphere of the battle exploded. Begin. Rip. Chen Wuming shot out a peak rank 7 scythe. It was bloody and curved like a crescent moon, tearing at Lin Chen from the side. Blood Demon Killing Claw. Chen Wuming stretched out his claw for the surprise attack of the scythe. His right arm shone with the brilliance of 3 odd crystal fragments. The dark red claw on his right hand was a peak rank 7 weapon. He could perfectly control 2 peak rank 7 weapons at the same time. His strength was completely different from the previous geniuses. The claw marks were like rainbows, and the scythe curved like a crescent moon flashed with fatal murderous intent. They surrounded Lin Chen from the left and right. What a terrifying murderous intent! Chen Wuming is a 3rd Tribulation Combat Emperor, but this move is so terrifying that it could even kill a 4th Tribulation Combat Emperor. No wonder he's ranked 64450 on the genius list. Some of the top generals of the Holy Empire looked solemn. This kid looked gentle, but his murderous intent was stronger than those who had been on the battlefield. He was definitely a ruthless character who had killed countless people. In the blink of an eye, a sudden change occurred. Boom. At this moment, the situation changed abruptly. The expressions of the old woman in black and the monarch changed drastically. A grayish-white talisman fell from the sky above Chen Wuming's head. Demon Suppression Sainthood. When the grayish-white talisman exploded, the space became particularly slow and stagnant. The speed of the sickle hook and the blood shadow claw went from an extremely fast state to extremely slow. What? Chen Wuming's expression changed drastically. The transformation of his battle aura was extremely slow. It was extremely difficult for him to even circulate his movement technique and retreat. Clang! The moment the gray-white talisman exploded, a sword hum that sounded like a dragon's roar was unsheathed, reverberating through the 9 heavens and resounding throughout the entire imperial palace. In that instant, Lin Chen activated his 7-fold transformation ultimate moment talent. His body was covered in a dark green light, and his pure strength skyrocketed to 99 million. The blazing and violent battle aura of the fire calamity rose above Lin Chen's head. His silver robe fluttered, and the blazing flames were like lines of fire, instantly burning Lin Chen's entire body. He looked like a god that had descended to the mortal world. The sword in Lin Chen's hand was flowing with the aura of an extremely powerful and domineering king. The might of a saint could suppress the heavens. An 8th-grade sword? Isn't he using a pinnacle 7th-grade sword? Why did it change to an 8th-grade saint sword? While the monarch and the old woman in black were shocked, Lin Chen's shoulders trembled. Endless fury burned through the universe and gathered on the Atlas sword. Lin Chen held the sword with both hands, and the pure strength in his hands exploded as he slashed down fiercely. It was a furious slash. Sword fury raises the sky. The orange sword rainbow condensed by the Atlas sword flashed rapidly, and an aurora flashed in front of most people's eyes. The sword rainbow was like the first radiance of the aurora, and when it slashed down, the aftershock of the sword aura instantly annihilated Chen Wuming's attack. Their attacks were not on the same level at all. Rip! The orange sword rainbow split Chen Wuming into 2 halves on the spot, and the aftershock of the fire calamity sword aura ignited and burned him in an instant. Dozens of attribute light balls floated in the air. Chen Wuming dead. Crack! Chi! Bang! The sword rainbow flashed and disappeared, and with a chi, the battle stage was split into 2 halves. Lin Chen's sword split the battle stage, which was dozens of acres wide, and there were still traces of the fire calamity burning on the surface of the cut. Bang! Flowers fell from the sky, and golden light shone brilliantly. A golden light exploded above Lin Chen's head. 1 swords only, Jundok Shui, affiliation. Black Horse Club, grade unknown, advanced to 64450 on the genius rankings. Silence. A deathly silence. One sword shocked the heavens. Chen Wuming didn't even have the chance to cry out. Under the restraint of the slowing rune, he was cut into two halves by Lin Chen's sword. Instant kill with one sword. He didn't even give the other party a chance to call for surrender. He was so strong that it made one's scalp tingle. The sixth princess stood up slowly, and her waist-length hair fluttered in the wind. A powerful battle aura swept over. For the first time, the cold and arrogant sixth princess's beautiful eyes shone with a strange light and battle intent. She didn't expect to find a worthy opponent in the selection contest. Without a doubt, this Jundok Shuai was qualified to fight with her. I've misjudged him twice. I didn't expect him to be so strong. Even I couldn't see through the secret technique that sealed the void. The power of that sword was infinitely close to an orange-grade sword technique. Plus, he used a holy sword to kill him instantly. Even I can't reverse the situation. The king and the old woman in black were amazed. This guy hid his strength too well. Chen Wuming's strength was ranked in the top 3 of the candidates in this contest. The fact that the Black Horse Club's Jundok Shuai could kill him in an instant was equivalent to advancing to the finals. After using the sword just now, he calmly put away his Tier 8 sword without any burden. He would definitely win this time's son-in-law selection. What a domineering sword! The lady in the plain dress stared at Lin Chen's back in amazement. I didn't even use the charging rune and killed this guy. I don't know if I'll have a chance to wrestle with a sage after I reach the peak of the 5th Calamity Combat Emperor. Lin Chen walked over slowly and collected the storage ring, attribute light balls and odd crystal fragments that Chen Wuming dropped. Obtained 1200 points of high-grade blood, 5 points of high-grade thunder energy, 4 points of high-grade rune energy, 2 points of high-grade mental power. Host decomposed 9 odd crystal fragments. Obtained attribute points, 5 points of high-grade thunder energy, 7 points of high-grade wind energy, 3 points of high-grade water energy. Obtained special attribute points, 19. 5 million points of red lotus demonic flame, 24 million points of dragon ice demon, 18. 8 million points of thousand ruthless Een wind. Lin Chen decomposed all the odd crystal fragments that he obtained from the sacred flame phoenix's warehouse and the odd crystal fragments that Chen Wuming dropped. The number of his high-grade blue rank surekill skills had reached 13. Because the odd crystal fragments that he obtained were relatively large, almost 1/9 or even 1/8 the size of an odd crystal, he obtained more attribute points after decomposing them. Prince Lin Chen, Qin Miao looked at Lin Chen gratefully while Qin Juyan pursed his lip. Lin Chen smiled casually. It's fine, this kind of person is a scourge. As for the two of you, if anything happens to me, follow Fu Xing Ancient Kingdom to find the spatial passage here and return to the mysterious domain. Ensuring your safety is the most important thing. Chapter 956. In the 4th round, Lin Chen's opponent directly forfeited. The 5th round was the final round of the competition to choose a son-in-law. The genius ranked 62045 on the genius ranking gave up after a few rounds with Lin Chen. The Black Horse Club's Jundok Shuai stood at the end. Ha ha, good. I didn't think that my Saint Fu country would have such an outstanding son-in-law. Congratulations! The king beamed. Although Lin Chen had defeated Chen Wuming, it wasn't a big deal. In the arena there were rules. Life and death were still in the hands of the participant. Chen Wuming's skills were inferior, but with the Saint Fu ancient country's foundation, as long as Jundok Shuai became the son-in-law, the Chen clan would not dare to touch him. Finally passed. Once I get the attribute treasure chest in the dowry, I'll think of a way to escape. Lin Chen exhaled as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Wait a minute, father. You know my condition. The 6th princess finally stood up. Lin Chen frowned. Condition? Could there be a change at this juncture? The king said with some dissatisfaction, Lu you've already seen your son-in-law's strength. Why do you need to fight again? His strength is enough to convince the masses. Son-in-law? You're calling him your son-in-law so quickly? The sixth princess raised her eyebrows. The king coughed lightly. The beauty said calmly, His strength is strong, but the prerequisite is that he can defeat me. The sixth princess waved her hand and a green light flowed. She held the cyan moon saber in her hand and wore a long robe and armor. She looked majestic as she stepped into the arena. Jundok Shuai, defeat me and you'll pass the competition. I, Yu Qingli, will not marry a man weaker than me. Lin Chen's heart was filled with an inexplicable anger. Damn it, didn't we agree that there would be no problems if I passed the competition? Why are you still doing this? The officials and commoners couldn't help but hold their breaths. The sixth princess was going to fight personally. She was hailed as the future female martial saint of Fu Xing ancient kingdom. Her talent was number one, and her comprehension was number one. The other princes and princesses were far inferior to her. There was no one in the royal family who could be compared to him. Would the Jundok Shuai be a match for him? Lin Chen's expression was somewhat cold as he turned to look at the monarch. Monarch, this should be the last condition, right? The monarch's expression was a little awkward. This is my daughter's decision. Little friend, please don't hold back. Just fight with all you've got. All right, a monarch doesn't go back on his words. I believe the monarch this time. Lin Chen leaped into the arena, facing the sixth princess, Yu Qingli. Her saber weapon, Azure Moon, was at the peak of the seventh rank. It was surrounded by a sharp aura that resembled the glow of the moon. Just by releasing a strand of saber energy, it could slice through the void and crush the air. Wait a moment, how do we determine the outcome? Lin Chen raised his hand. No matter what, it was still a son-in-law selection. He couldn't possibly beat him to death like he did to Chen Wuming just now, right? Deal with me the same way you dealt with Chen Wuming. We'll fight until we can't fight anymore. The corner of Lin Chen's mouth twitched when he heard Yu Qingli's words. He had never seen such a strange request before. Beat you to death? Swoosh. A saber energy curved like a crescent moon burst out from Yu Qingli's saber light. It was like a long river that entrenched itself, and the saber disc twisted towards Lin Chen. Sevenfold transformation, ultimate moment. Lin Chen's pure strength and mental power skyrocketed. He gripped the green destiny sword tightly and slashed horizontally. The sword light moved like the stars and cut through the saber energy. Although Lin Chen's battle chi cultivation didn't break through to the next realm due to the amplification of the sevenfold transformation, it was more powerful than all the third tribulation battle emperors. Take out that secret technique of yours that can seal off space, Jundok Shuai. Yu Qingli stepped into the air and charged towards Lin Chen. Her saber light flashed and four spiraling saber energies slashed towards Lin Chen from four different directions. Lin Chen held his sword and slashed diagonally, turning around and slashing horizontally. He evaded all the saber energies and smiled indifferently. I will judge whether you are worthy of my use or not. Also, thank you for the compliment. Everyone knows that the Black Horse Club is full of handsome people, so I hope that the princess will keep a low profile. Glib tongue, take my saber. Yu Qingli was like a sonorous rose that bloomed on the battlefield. She was like a goddess of war who had entered the battlefield. Her saber techniques were endless, fast, and steady. Every saber had been tempered thousands of times, and all of them slashed towards Lin Chen's blind spots. Clang, clang, clang. The saber light and sword shadows, one green and one red, collided violently in a split second. Both sides were engaged in a chaotic battle. Yu Qingli's movement technique was extremely fast. She actually suppressed Lin Chen, who had activated Ultimate Moment. 7-star slash. Faint green flash. The red sword light was like a straight rainbow. An extremely fast saber light slashed horizontally and cut Lin Chen's sword light in half. Rumble! Lin Chen's 5 forces in one palm hit her lower abdomen. All 99 million dragon power points were gathered. Clang! Her leg armor flew across the air to block the attack. The beauty's long and beautiful legs exploded with a terrifying strength. She leaped into the air and with a high kick, she spun around like a windmill and blocked Lin Chen's palm strike. Whoosh! After his palm was blocked, Lin Chen stabbed out with his sword in a reverse grip. The sword light whistled and stabbed diagonally towards Yu Qingli's neck. Murderous intent was revealed. Yu Qingli's tall figure slid back like a beautiful snake. Her saber turned and slashed down, blocking Lin Chen's sword. Whoosh! The sound of wind splitting rang out. Yu Qingli raised her leg and kneed Lin Chen's waist with a light green wind-type battle aura. Bam! The shockwave exploded. Lin Chen raised his left arm and struck with an elbow. The metal calamity mystic handle circulated. At the same time, he blocked the opponent's knee and her wind-type battle aura. Bam! 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 Boom! The two of them fought with speed, dazzling the eyes. The two figures flashed rapidly. The Jundok Shuai, who had always suppressed others with speed, was suppressed by the 6th Princess Yu Qingli. Her wind-type battle aura was originally good at speed. Even the infinite silent steps, enhanced by the ultimate moment, talent was at a disadvantage. The swordsmanship was fierce and tricky in close combat. The saber technique was a terrifying body-refining technique. The two of them seemed to have met their match and were locked in a fierce battle. They fought fiercely all the way from the sky to the battle stage. The weak could only see countless shadows crisscrossing. Those below the 2nd Calamity Battle Emperor level couldn't even see the battle. Lin Chen, who had activated the ultimate moment, could completely crush the geniuses in the 70,000 genius rankings. But now, he could only fight evenly with Yu Qingli? Without a doubt, the two of them have the combat power of the top 60,000 genius rankings. The top geniuses looked dignified. This battle was completely unknown. You haven't made me fight with my full strength yet. Take out your trump card and that shocking sword. Otherwise, you won't be my opponent. Yu Qingli warned, and the speed of her saber technique suddenly increased by 30%. I will judge whether it's worth it. Lin Chen was not surprised and smiled indifferently. Don't tell me you think that my trump card is only those 2 moves? Then I'll force you out. Yu Qingli slashed vertically and her saber technique suddenly changed. Her entire body released a faint light of lightning-type odd crystal fragment. The saber light was as fast as lightning and the dense lightning saber marks instantly suppressed Lin Chen. It's the 6th princess's specialty, the half-orange grade lightning flash 1000 kills! The general's morale was boosted. Yu Qingli attacked with her full strength and her cultivation was immediately revealed. She was actually a 4th Calamity Battle Emperor? Her cultivation was 2 full realms higher than Lin Chen's. It was a complete suppression. Chapter 957. The cultivation of a 4th Tribulation Battle Emperor stunned everyone once again. Yu Qingli was indeed the #1 genius in the history of the Fu Saint Nation. Her exceptional talent could be said to be at the peak of a 4th grade force. She would be considered one of the best even in a 5th grade force. Lin Chen still smiled without any ripples. You've always wanted me to hold the sword. So you actually like my big treasure sword that much? Actually, I'm the best at drawing my spear. Rumble. Clang. Lin Chen pulled out the skyscraping sword. His saintly aura filled the sky and the domineering aura of a king swept across the entire arena. He's serious. He's really drawing out the saint's sword. Motherf *Ker, this guy dares to kill the princess? The corners of the geniuses' mouths twitched violently. On the contrary, some of the high-ranking officials cast disdainful looks. Worried about the princess? The one who should be worried is that guy. Although the sixth princess's ranking wasn't the highest in the arena, her ranking on the genius ranking had remained unchanged for 5 years. Her current strength was not as simple as the ranking. I can only use the Saint's sword for a limited time. In addition, the rune's energy is extremely limited. I won't use the level 6 runes to avoid wasting their energy. I'll suppress her directly. Lin Chen made up his mind and struck out with his sword, shattering Yu Qingli's lightning blade shadow. Swoosh! Yu Qingli's shadow exploded. Her real body flashed above Lin Chen's head. Her speed was so fast that most of the 5th Tribulation Battle Emperors couldn't see through it. Lin Chen was shocked. Her speed was ridiculously fast. Clang! Lin Chen's mental consciousness reacted extremely quickly. In an instant, he blocked Yu Qingli's attack with his blade. Rumble! Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed. It was so fast that Lin Chen could barely react. He turned around and slashed his blade behind him. The blade and the sword collided. Lin Chen took advantage of the momentum and sent out dozens of mental attacks behind him, shattering one side of the arena. But he still missed. Yu Qingli's body jumped like lightning, leaving only a faint shadow in the arena. Even Lin Chen was surprised. Yu Qingli's laughter came. Good reaction. Your mental strength is very strong. Again. Swoosh. Swoosh. Rumble. Wind and thunder moved at the same time, whistling as they rolled up, forming snowflake-like blades of lightning that shot towards Lin Chen. Lin Chen swiftly brandished his mighty heaven sword, 7 extremes force and spirit shock. These 3 types of attacks were launched in quick succession. Lightning and saber chi exploded, leaving behind a large area. I didn't expect this girl to have learned it to such an extent. She even learned the 1,000 caddies of lightning blaze. This is a little difficult. The monarch couldn't help but reveal a troubled expression. Wasn't this bullying? 1,000 caddies lightning blaze was the most difficult secret skill to cultivate in the Fu Xing country's royal family. The reason was simple. It was because it was a half-orange grade movement skill. A half-orange grade movement technique was even rarer than a half-orange grade mental cultivation technique, because movement-type combat skills were too difficult to create and pass down. Many saints did not even have a half-orange grade movement skill. Its rarity was second only to a complete orange grade combat skill. You have a good daughter. The black-robed old woman transmitted her voice to the country lord using battle chi, and the latter replied with a forced smile. That little guy is going to lose. Unless he uses that strange spatial ceiling technique just now, he might have a chance. The black-robed old woman shook her head. A half-orange grade movement skill could be said to be unbeatable. Yu Qingli's strength and cultivation base were already around the 57,000 genius ranking. With a half-orange grade movement skill, her strength was ridiculously strong. Unless her opponent had a movement skill of the same level, she would be unbeatable even if she fought against a genius ranked 50,000. This was the absolute suppression of movement skill speed. Grandma, is this young master going to lose? The girl in the plain dress asked curiously. The black-robed old woman smiled and said, He is not weak. He is just unlucky. This girl's strength and talent are indeed a little heaven-defying. But it's good that he loses. He is quite compatible with my good granddaughter. He is still suitable to be my grandson-in-law, ha. The girl in the plain dress said with a straight face, Grandma, you can't joke with people like that. Although she didn't hate the Jundok Shuai, she didn't have a good impression of him either. Rumble. The lightning blade flashed rapidly and broke through many of Lin Chen's attacks. Although his sword technique and attacks were fast, Yu Qingli was faster than him. He's going to lose. Most of the strong fighters present felt their hearts skip a beat. As expected, this Black Horse Club was still a little weaker than the number 1 genius of Fu Xing country. He only lost because of his foundation and age, because he was still quite young. Lose. Jundok Shuai, this princess acknowledges your strength. Yu Qingli slashed horizontally, and the lightning blade flashed so fast that everyone felt a flash of lightning. Rip! The blade cut through the Jundok Shui figure and slowly melted. Yu Qingli's beautiful eyes moved, showing some confusion. It was actually an afterimage of a light-type battle aura? Could it be? Rip? Host has activated the complete passive talent. Assault. Power bonus, 300%. The moment the system screen popped up, the blade slashed at Yu Qingli's back. Clang. Rumble. The blade and sword surged, colliding with each other and creating tearing marks, disturbing the airflow. With a crack, a faint crack appeared on Yu Qingli's peak 7th tier armor. Lin Chen floated in the air, his silver robe fluttering with a faint pure white light like soft water. In the brilliance, there was a faint dragon shadow moving back and forth. Lin Chen's figure tilted slightly. Rip! The blazing white light shone from his body. His whole body seemed to have turned into a white dragon, and the dragon's shadow disappeared in a flash. Yu Qingli's face changed greatly. You have it too? The monarch and the black-clothed old woman's expressions instantly turned grave. A second tribulation combat emperor could display such a terrifying speed. There was no doubt that he also had a half-orange grade movement technique. And it was at the perfect level. His movements were so smooth that it didn't seem like he had just started cultivating it. How many trump cards did this young man have? Rip! The mighty sky sword slashed horizontally, and Yu Qingli was caught off guard and exploded into a sky full of lightning and wind. Whoosh! 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 The earth-shattering sword slashes were like meteors, turning into a storm and slashing down rapidly. Yu Qingli waved her saber, and the saber shadow was like an airtight saber wave, colliding with the sky full of sword rain. Bang! Bang! The saber light was shattered. Both of them used their movement techniques to fight with saber and sword techniques, but they were completely suppressed by Lin Chen. His speed was more than twice as fast as Yu Qingli's. Host has activated a passive talent. Tear the opponent's defense. Rip! A tearing sound was heard, and Yu Qingli's battle chi defense was broken, and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. One move to decide the winner. Yu Qingli suddenly held her saber with both hands, and the green moonlight surged from the saber. She slashed at Lin Chen furiously. The saber chi flashing with the green moonlight turned into a long rainbow dragon, roaring angrily in the sky and pouncing on Lin Chen like a frightening dragon. It's the 1000-moon green dragon. My God, the 6th princess has even learned this move. This is the saber technique closest to an orange-grade inheritance technique in the Holy Empire. Chapter 958. Kaboom! Lin Chen's entire body was burning with anger. His sacred sword was dyed with the Fire Calamity battle aura. Lin Chen raised his sword and slashed the dragon. The orange sword light slashed down, and the anger burned the heaven and earth, turning into a furious sword slash. Rip! Bang! The two decided the victor in one move. Wind, lightning, and fire calamity exploded, forming a rolling tornado that went straight to the top of the palace. How's the battle? It seems to be a draw? This Jundok Shui is too strong. He still hasn't used that space-sealing secret technique. Did he hold back for the princess? That's not a big deal. He's here to participate in the son-in-law selection. Of course, he has to treat his future wife well. This kid has the demeanor of an expert swordsman. While the geniuses were looking forward to the battle, there was a tearing sound. Bang! 2 flying daggers collided in the void, creating countless sparks. Everyone was shocked. These two still had a trump card? Both of them knew the flying dagger technique? The tornado dispersed, and 2 golden daggers flashed past. With a boom, they cut into Yu Qingli's armor, causing her lips to bleed. Boom! While Yu Qingli was hit by the 2 flying daggers, Lin Chen's body turned into a white dragon and appeared behind her. Lin Chen's fist was like a dragon, ruthlessly and savagely aimed at her slender waist. She hurriedly activated Lightning Blaze 1,000 caddies to dodge the attack. Who would have thought that Lin Chen would follow her like a shadow and follow up with another punch? Yu Qingli gritted her teeth and activated the defensive battle technique, Moonlight Glass Body. The battle aura of the battle armor turned into a glass of moonlight, and her entire body became tough and indestructible. Bang! Lin Chen's punch hit her, but it didn't hurt her. Under the multiple layers of protection, this punch didn't hurt Yu Qingli much. So handsome, sir. Yu Qingli was a little flustered, but before she could finish her sentence, Lin Chen had already reached out with lightning speed and grabbed her tall and slammed her onto the floor of the stage. Whoosh! Bang! The moonlight glass body cracked slightly. Azure Dragon Possession. Lin Chen infused the power of the Dragon Emperor into his body, and his pure strength skyrocketed to over 70 million. His strength was comparable to a 4 Tribulation Battle Emperor. The entire process was practically just a spark of flint. Lin Chen grabbed her calf and fiercely smashed Yu Qingli's entire body again. Attribute light balls rolled down. Yu Qingli was a 4th Tribulation Combat Emperor and a genius on the genius ranking. The quality of the attribute light balls she dropped was quite high. Lin Chen smashed them even more vigorously. A series of loud rumbling sounds rang out. Yu Qingli's entire person was like being whipped around by Lin Chen. Countless people's mouths were slightly agape. Those with low mental fortitude even had their mouths twitching. It was 2F** King Brutal. The future female martial saint of the Fu Saint Nation was being whipped around like a whip. Everyone was shocked to see this. Who the F***ck said that this kid has a good demeanor. I'll blow his head off. F***ck. This is too scary. Is he still human? He can even lay his hands on the princess. The lips of the geniuses trembled. When they saw this Jundok Shuai's elegant demeanor, they thought that he was some noble young master. Now, they could see that he was simply an unparalleled demon. A minister quickly stood up and cupped his fists towards the king who was sitting in the void. Your humble servant begs your majesty to stop this battle. Something will happen to the princess. Yes, your majesty. This person is inhumane. The ministers all tried to persuade him, but the king only raised his hand and said expressionlessly, I know what I'm doing. My beloved ministers, please sit down. Grandma, he's so brutal. The girl in the simple dress leaned towards the old woman in black. The old woman smiled and said, This kid is indeed brutal. If it's a battle of life and death, he will naturally use everything he has. But he controlled his strength very well and did not completely beat this girl to death. Otherwise, the king would have already made his move. Yu Qingli felt as if her entire body was being torn apart. She had never suffered such terrible torture in her life. Her armor was cracking, and her moonlight glass armor was already broken. Her snow-white skin was covered in blood. He didn't even give me a chance to surrender. So brutal. So painful. Yu Qingli wailed in her heart. This time, I'll let this girl suffer a little. I'll let her know that there's always someone better out there. This kid is the one who can subdue her, and is suitable to be her husband, the king thought to himself. After a round of beating, until Yu Qingli could no longer drop any attribute light orbs, Lin Chen finally threw her to the side. He clapped his hands and shrugged. The princess told me to treat Chen Wuming the same way from the start. In a normal battle, this is how I treat my enemies. I wonder if the princess is satisfied? To be honest, I've never seen such a strange request. Host has received 3 high-grade wind energy points, 2 high-grade thunder energy points, 3,000 high-grade battle chi essence points, 4 high-grade rune energy points. Lin Chen collected the attribute light orbs that were scattered in the air. The attribute values that Yu Qingli had dropped were very high. At this time, Yu Qingli was lying on the ground. Her armor was broken, and her dress was stained with blood. Her white and delicate skin was pale, and she looked pitiful. She was no longer as valiant as before. Yu Qingli was at a loss for words. She looked at Lin Chen with eyes that revealed some fear and a complicated expression. This young man looked elegant, but in reality, he was a beast in battle. Domineering, wild, and brutal. No matter how good his swordsmanship was, he didn't seem like a swordsman at all. Cough, cough. I announce that our young friend Jundok Shuai has passed the son-in-law selection convention. Qingli, do you have any objections? Yu Qingli gritted her teeth. No objections. The king waved his hand, and a holy light shrouded Yu Qingli. Her injuries began to quickly heal. The whole place was in an uproar. They had been shocked by Lin Chen's brutal means. Only now did they realize that the sixth princess, Yu Qingli, had been completely defeated. This kid's combat strength is at least on par with the 50,000th genius on the genius list. He's too monstrous. What kind of monsters have the Black Horse Club cultivated? I can't be envious. Just by that movement technique, his strength has surpassed everyone on the genius list. The geniuses on the genius list were envious and amazed. This Jundok Shuai was really strong. No one was convinced. Ha ha, congratulations. One of my worries has finally been settled. The king chuckled and stood up. He looked straight at Lin Chen and said with a smile, "Young friend, this time, wait a minute." At this time, Yu Qingli suddenly spoke again. Everyone looked at her. "You can marry me, but you have to follow the rules of the imperial edict. You have to marry my twin sister, seventh royal sister, as well." Yu Qingli's words were shocking. At the mention of the so-called seventh royal sister, everyone's expression changed slightly. Nonsense. What do you take my imperial edict for? The king was enraged. His eyes were fierce and fierce. Lin Chen was a little puzzled. He didn't understand everyone's reaction. According to common sense, wasn't marrying two people a good thing? Why did all the geniuses look like they had seen a ghost? Yu Qingli opened her storage ring and held an old imperial edict in her hand. She smiled faintly and said, "Father, a monarch doesn't take his words lightly, right?" The king's expression changed slightly when he saw the imperial edict in Yu Qingli's hand. Chapter 959. By the will of the heavens, His Majesty decrees. Today, His Majesty decrees that 6th Princess Yu Qingli and 7th Princess Yu Yulan will only marry one person. Yu Qingli spread out the old imperial edict and read out the contents concisely. The king's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect this girl to still have the imperial edict from many years ago. The king once got drunk and had fun. At that time, the two girls were still young. The sisters were born together and their hearts were connected. He promised that they would marry one person and even let him personally issue an imperial edict. At that time, the king thought that it was just a child's nonsense. Coupled with the fact that he was drunk, he doted on the two sisters and issued an imperial edict. He didn't expect Yu Qingli to still have this imperial edict after so many years. If it was a normal situation, the king wouldn't say anything. The king didn't joke and just follow the imperial edict. However, it was different now. 7th Princess Yu Yulan was no longer the same as before. She had encountered an accident that changed her life. Even if she didn't die, her entire person had changed. "I didn't expect you to even scheme against me. Is it so difficult for you to find a man?" The king's eyes were filled with anger. Yu Qingli clenched her teeth. "I don't want to marry a stranger." The father and daughter were about to quarrel when Lin Sun's voice echoed. "Your Majesty, there's nothing to say. We, the Black Horse Club, have always been famous for our handsomeness, longevity, and specialty. To me, there's not much difference between one princess and two princesses." When these words came out, everyone present opened their mouths wide. Everyone's first reaction was, "Is this kid crazy? Could it be that he doesn't know about 7th Princess Yu Yulan's situation?" Yu Qingli frowned. Jundok Shuai, do you know what's the situation now? Lin Chen thought. I don't care about your situation. I just want the attribute treasure chest in your dowry. I have a large group of Sage Realm experts chasing after me. I don't care if it's 1 or 2 princesses. Even if it's 100, I have to agree first. Elder sister, let me talk to him. At this time, a crisp voice sounded like the collision of pearls and jade, pleasant to the ear. A woman in a white dress flew through the air. She was wearing a cloak, and her figure was delicate and slender. Her aura was concealed. Many people's expressions turned ugly when they saw this woman. Some of the geniuses on the genius rankings didn't even bother to look at her. Young master, if you had seen me like this, would you still want to marry me and my sister? The woman took off her cloak, revealing a horrifying face. Her facial bones were deformed. One of her eyes was bigger than the other. Her lips were almost invisible due to the parasitic flesh. There was a hook-shaped flesh in front of her nose. Pieces of purplish flesh stuck to her cheeks. It was extremely strange. It was a face that could not be described as ugly. It was an extremely disgusting face. Blurred. Many of the geniuses on the genius roll almost vomited when they saw it. 90% of the people didn't want to look at the woman in white. Her delicate hands were trembling slightly. It was obvious that she wasn't calm at all. Everyone's gazes were like sharp knives stabbing into her heart. Qin Juyin and Qin Miao covered their cherry lips with their delicate hands. Their beautiful eyes were filled with sympathy and heartache. The corners of Qin Miao's eyes were already glistening with tears. Seventh sister, you didn't have to come out. Yu Qingli hugged her sister tightly as tears streamed down her face. The sixth princess, who was tough and indomitable, was also weeping at this moment. Yu Qingli didn't want to marry. A large part of it was because of her sister. Her life was too tragic. In her heart, she would rather find someone who was willing to take care of her sister. That was why she worked so hard to cultivate and become extremely strong. She also declared to her father that she would never marry a man weaker than her. However, her true motive was to secretly find a man who could accept her younger sister. Sigh. The king's palm trembled a few times as he slowly closed his eyes. Forget it, Grandma, why is that big sister like this? The girl in a plain dress looked at her grandmother with tears in her eyes. It's a poison curse cast by an extremely powerful Saint Realm expert. Even a first-grade Saint Realm alchemist would find it difficult to remove it. Moreover, a portion of her facial features have already been destroyed, and some extremely terrifying toxins will be discharged regularly. The old woman in black shook her head. This girl's fate was indeed bumpy. She didn't commit suicide after experiencing such a thing. It was already considered an extremely strong state of mind. The two girls were once twins. They were as beautiful as flowers and as beautiful as the moon. However, one day, an enemy Saint Realm expert from Fuxing Ancient Nation infiltrated their country. In the end, although that Saint Realm expert was killed by a few Saint Realm experts from Fuxing Ancient Nation, he left behind a vicious poison curse on the royal family. As a Saint Realm cultivator, she did not suffer much. However, there was a poison curse that hit the seventh princess at that time. This beautiful and kind-hearted girl turned into her current state. As long as a normal man saw the seventh princess's appearance, he would feel both physical and psychological disgust, not to mention marrying her. Just one look at her made one's stomach churn. Most importantly, her face and body were poisoned. Fatal toxins would be released regularly. Who would dare to use their life to marry such a person? If you can accept my sister, then I'm willing to marry you. If you're like those ordinary people, then I'll also give you a generous reward. I won't let you participate in this son-in-law selection for nothing. The sixth princess wiped her tears and said seriously to Lin Chen. She noticed that the young man was staring at her sister. So it's you. Lin Chen sighed. This woman was the kind-hearted woman he had met when he first entered the Saint Fu ancient kingdom. The seventh princess's body trembled. She said in a self-deprecating tone, "I have disappointed young master. I am sorry." "Ah? Disappointed?" "I am not disappointed." Lin Chen laughed heartily. He didn't have any expectations. Naturally, he wasn't disappointed. He was just a little surprised. "Didn't I say before that people are judged by their appearance?" He looked seriously at the seventh princess and smiled. "But this doesn't stop me from admiring your beautiful soul, right?" Yu Qingli and Yu Yulan trembled. "Ha, hypocrite! Damn it, is this kid addicted to acting? What a snake! These people from the Black Horse Club are full of bullshit. They even go against their own hearts. Would a man want such a woman?" The geniuses on the genius ranking mock. Yu Qingli's expression was solemn. "Does young Master Jundok Shui mean that you are willing to accept my sister?" Yu Yulan also felt a strange sense of expectation. She stared at this young master who had once saved her life. She was very nervous. However, Lin Chen continued. "I am only choosing a son-in-law to marry the sixth princess. How can I force the seventh princess to marry me?" The moment he said this, the sisters felt like they had fallen into an ice cellar. "Look at this B*****. What does he look like? Damn, who was the one who said that 1 or 2 more princesses wouldn't be too much? Does he still have any shame? A fence-sitter who swings with the wind. Bah, I despise this kind of trash the most." The geniuses sneered and ridiculed without restraint. Their eyes were full of contempt and disdain. The admiration they had for Lin Chen earlier had vanished without a trace. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.